pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. Why don't we start with the Register of Probate, Sharon Peavy.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you fine.
Okay. So my budget is little changed. The only increase to it is in the personnel lines. I did decrease a couple of line items that I felt were ready to be decreased. Other than that, it's just personnel. Sorry, my clock's gonna chime.
It's okay. Do we have any questions?
I don't.
I do.
Yeah, go ahead.
Why do we even have typewriter repair on the budget? Do we still use typewriters?
We do. We use a typewriter several times a day.
Okay.
Out of curiosity, what are we using for?
We use them for preparing our passports to submit to the U.S. Department of State. The information we could write it on, but it looks much neater if it's typed on. And we also use it to type on our file folders. Rather than using labels, we just use the typewriter.
Did you have a question, Bob?
No.
Okay. All right, well, if there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we accept department number 1070 for 2023 budget at $248,670. What? Right?
No, not really.
Yeah,
One down, one down.
It's $299 up.
$299.
right here.
Confusing because we haven't done.
Sorry, I wasn't listening.
Here.
I don't have that page.
Well, it's missing a page.
I can do this page.
A lot of times it's easier, I find, to just go right from the budget summary.
Okay, great.
And go right with the 290.
All right, so make that motion for 290 and 390.
I'll second.
Motion moved by Bob, seconded by Penny. Do we need a roll call vote? Do we need a roll call vote?
You can, you did last time, Josh, and it worked out well. Yeah.
We did because
I think.
Yeah. not everybody was here.
If
Right.
someone's remote, we need a roll call. Okay. Okay.
We have a full crew.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's do it. All right. Continuity. All right, well, any discussion? Okay, no discussion, call for a vote. Penny?
Yes.
Bob?
Aye.
Elaine?
Aye.
Tom? Yes. Linda?
Yes.
Aye. I vote yes. Motion passes unanimously. Great. Sharon, thank you so much.
Great, thank you very much.
Have a great day. All right, moving on to 2035 Waldo County Soil and Water District.
Yes, good morning. Can you all see me and hear me?
Yes, we can hear and see you.
Okay. Good morning, Budget Committee. Good morning, County Commissioners. I'm also joined today by our Board Chair, Andrew Reed, who I believe is sitting in the audience, and Jean Randall, the Treasurer of our board. My name is Medea Steinman. I'm the Administrative Director for Waldo County Soil and Water Conservation District. We sent a budget request letter on August 3rd. Do you all have that in front of you?
I do.
Yes.
Okay, great. We also sent some attachments, PFAS resource guide and other PFAS information from CDC and so on, as well as our annual report from 2021. You'll be getting another annual report soon in January. We'll do another one for 2022. Would you like me to walk through the highlights from the letter, or is there no need for that?
Sure. Why don't you
Okay.
walk through? Yeah.
Okay, great. The letter includes a program delivery summary showing the number of clients served and service hours and towns, as well as partner organizations we've worked with. This was as of August 3rd, of course. Those visits often involve multiple visits per client. I mentioned there the PFAS resource guide that we developed. This was in looking at what was available online. I noticed it was very overwhelming and somewhat confusing, so I decided the best thing to do there was to create kind of a one-stop shop for PFAS questions and where to go for to get your questions answered, rather than try to recreate what's available online. There's so much there. And also the other resources have been created by, for instance, Co-op Extension. They have an excellent website. Our resource guide touches on a whole suite of agencies and other resources online for people to visit, depending on what the nature of the question or problem is, whatever their concern is. I thought it was just best for us to say, here's where to go to get your questions answered. The district is not involved in anything along the lines of sampling or analysis. That's all being farmed out to analytical labs that are equipped to deal with PFAS sampling, which is not like your usual sampling. It's very easy to contaminate samples when you're collecting them. So this work is not something we are engaged in directly, and the resource guide just tries to help folks in the community know where to go to find the information they need. And Co-op Extension, among other groups, has created other kinds of excellent resources. So I also attached PFAS for the farmer and gardener, and then there was a fish advisory FAQ. So those were all sent to you as well. Unity Pond, we continued our 2-year grant with DEP. We are wrapping that up right now. There's a public meeting scheduled for 6:30 p.m. on October 27th at the Unity Community Center. Everybody's welcome to attend if you would like to hear the results of 2 years of data collection and analysis. There will be a couple of scientists there. I will be there. It's a hybrid meeting, so we are making it available in person as well as online through a Zoom webinar. That will be an 1.5 hour long meeting, and there will be the data results will be presented, as well as recommendations for where to go from here for the next 10-year watershed-based management plan effort. So that would involve further grant proposals to DEP to get further money to address phosphorus runoff from the watershed drainage, as well as internal to the lake itself. Looking over the past year, we had some very successful public events and outreach events. Excuse me. Our plant sale was very successful. It was held on May 7th, and we did it as a Homestead Day community style event where there were other vendors present. It was held at a Hunter Farm, Maine Traders Market in Unity. So I think the nature of that event with vendors helped us generate a higher turnout than usual. And we did manage to raise some funds. It's intended as a fundraiser, but it isn't. We aren't always able to get into the black with the event. This year we were able to do that. It's also just a community outreach and visibility event. So this year was a great success. We're really happy about the way it went, and we'd like to do it that way again. Mid-Coast Regional Envirothon, we were the host for the regional event this year. We do this with other districts. There are 4 districts in our region, and the host rotates around, and that was us this year. And so there were 5 schools with 8 teams total. 2 of those teams went on to compete in the state championship. And team number 1 took 3rd place. So they, we were very excited to see school from our district doing so well. The Conservation Landscape Certification Program, which is relatively new, it's been going for a couple of years, has been also very successful and generating a lot of interest in Waldo County, as well as other soil and water districts have taken note and are interested. Knox Lincoln Soil and Water like the idea so much, they're partnering with us on the grant. And they are also engaging with their residents on working with their properties to develop landscape methods and practices that are more sustainable for soil and water resources. And there was a bus tour held. You all were invited to that. The county commissioners were invited, and the bus tour was a great public visibility and outreach success as well. People really enjoyed it. We got great feedback. They visited, I believe it was 4 properties in the 2 districts to see what kind of practices people are engaging in, and people really enjoyed that. Our website is undergoing reconstruction, and stay tuned. We have a new and improved website coming. Let's see, another event that I didn't mention in the letter that was coming up and which has now happened is the Common Ground Fair. We had a booth there. As you know, Common Ground Fair did not hold there was no live event over the last 2 years. So this was the first time in 3 years, and their attendance broke records, all records from the past. Our booth was just inundated in a positive way with visitors. It was a tremendous success as far as visibility and outreach. Lots of people came into the booth and got questions answered and picked up materials on PFAS, invasive pests, and a whole bunch of other information. We also shared the booth with the Invasive Forest Pests program, which is a grant-funded program being run right now through the Cumberland County Soil and Water Conservation District. And our booth was located right next to the Department of Agriculture booth, with the Maine Natural Areas Program also represented there. And there was just a really wonderful kind of back and forth between the 2 booths and sharing customers, so to speak. So it was wonderful. We had also volunteer support staffing the booth. So it was just a really excellent community-wide collaboration. The digitizing aerial photos mentioned there is upcoming. That has actually begun. We have an excellent community volunteer with fantastic skills, relevant skills, coming into the office right now to build the metadata for the collection of aerial photos that we have that we inherited from the USDA. And the Maine State Library has offered to help us digitize these using their equipment, no cost for this. And we are in discussions with Adam Fisher at the library right now. And after building the metadata in a spreadsheet, we will go down to the library with these stacks and stacks of big aerial photos and begin scanning those with their equipment and create a digitized resource so that folks who don't live in the county or maybe even live out of state but own property in Waldo County can have access to the aerial photo collection. The 1939 series is the most popular, and folks who want to see photos mostly request those, and that's the collection we're starting with. And if this goes quickly, we'll probably continue with the 1966 and 1980 collection. Let's see. So those are the highlights. Another thing that we are working on, very interested in, and that you'll probably hear more about next year, is we have strong interest in working on stream crossing. So addressing failing culverts in the county, using Stream Smart methodology developed by Maine Audubon and probably 10 other partner groups, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and so on. Stream Smart methodology is a way to make culverts more sustainable for the longer term. So we've begun learning about this. My colleague Alita McKeague, who's our technical director, already has received training in Stream Smart. I just completed the phase 2 training, and our board has shown strong support and interest in getting involved in this work in the county. And we hope to work directly with towns in, finding out from them, where are your failing culverts? This is a public safety issue. This is a climate adaptation issue, as well as a wildlife aquatic organism passage issue. So I have held a couple of phone meetings with stream crossing experts in the state through Nature Conservancy, through Fish and Wildlife. And they've expressed, lots of encouragement and support for us getting involved in this. And over the next 6 months or so, we'll be doing outreach to the towns in Waldo County to find out, what their culverts are doing, how do things look, where are their concerns, would they like to partner with us? Would they like our help and support in, developing grant applications? For instance, Maine DEP has a municipal stream crossing grant program specifically targeting towns who want help addressing their culverts. So that's something we'll be focusing a lot of energy on in the coming months, and hopefully get some projects going next year in next year's DEP cycle. So I think I've hit all the highlights and big points. I don't know if Jean or Andy would like to add anything.
I just think that, we try to keep our budget within reason, and we're not asking for any more monies than the 26,000. But with the economic culture that we have right now, things are going up tremendously. So you're going to hear from all the other people that are here today that, their budgets are going to be really tight. So we appreciate what you do for us, and we continue to do the work for the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Medea.
You're welcome.
Do we have any questions?
I move that we approve $26,000 for Budget Center 2035 Waldo County Soil and Water.
I'll second. Motion moved by Bob, seconded by Tim. Any discussion? Okay, call the vote. Okay. Aye. Linda? Tom? Blaine?
Yes.
Aye.
Bob? Yes. Yes. It is unanimous.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks so much.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you. All right, moving on to Department 1015, the District Attorney's Office. Podium.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all again. It's been a long time since we've been in person, I think, but I keep forgetting. So we're plugging away at the district attorney's office. We have excellent staff here in Waldo County. I couldn't be more proud of the work that Waldo County, the team here in Waldo County does for the district attorney's office. Our budget, we have done everything we can to keep it as tight as possible, as low as possible. There is a slight increase. I'll highlight the lines that there are increases in. We have capital outlay. We have a slight increase in that line. That's due to the fact that we will be moving from the old courthouse to the Sheriff's Department Public Safety Building. And that's going to, that move and the infrastructure that we need for that office will have, is going to create a slight increase in our budget line there. Telephones, we need to make sure our team that communicates with each other regarding court cases, regarding defendants specifically, that has to be CJIS compliant. So this is new. That means that our staff need to have work cell phones that aren't private cell phones. And CJIS is the Criminal Justice Information System. That's a federal Those are federal guidelines that we need to be in compliance with regarding confidential criminal history information. And the fact that our team are, we'll have somebody at the courthouse, somebody maybe at the office or in the offices in the courthouse, texting back and forth, emailing back and forth as court's going on. That's a very normal function of our day, and I can attest to that because I fill in here on occasion, and we often need to get a hold of a victim witness advocate or a legal secretary regarding specific information during court. And so we've been told by the IT department here that we need to be, that right now, using our private cell phones is we are out of compliance, so we need, that's why we're asking for that increase there. Document disposal, slight increase in that line again, because we're moving. We've decided we're not going to take a bunch of stuff that we don't need anymore. These are files that can be destroyed. So that's what we plan to do instead of moving them over there and continuing to store them. Office supplies, that line has gone up because of inflation. We're not asking for anything new or more, just the price of everything, as we all know, has gone up. I believe we have a slight increase in our salary lines. And other than that, I think everything's about the same.
I have a question. On the postage, we had budgeted for 2022, $2,200. And it looks like expended current year, 2022, $10.04. Is that correct?
Eric Harvey is here. He works, he is the office manager in our office. He's the prosecutorial assistant, and he may know the answer to that.
Yes, so some of that is we're in the process of going to a new system called ShareFile, which allows officers to share all the documents and records and reports with our office electronically. So we're still trying to figure out where that line is going to be and what the cost will be by the end of this year. So it even allows us, so when we're required by law to provide discovery to defense attorneys, which means the documents that we have. So if we provide those, in the past, we've been mailing all those out, big thick binders of things. So now we're able to send those electronically through this electronic file cabinet. It's basically what it is. So we can do it through an email system. So it is saving money. So we really have no idea where we would be with that line. We'll have a clear picture next year and maybe able to reduce that.
Have we only spent $10 this year?
I think there's some outstanding debt on that line.
Okay.
I know that we would love to have only spent $10 because that would mean we were completely up and running on ShareFile, but that's not the case. So we are doing quite a bit, and with help from our police departments, including the sheriff's department.
Yes.
Under line number 4925, we budgeted 2,500 for witness fees, and it looks like we expended $0.
Yes, so witness fees are one of those funky lines where we might not need it one year and we might need a ton the next year, and that comes, I'll give you just the very brief description of that is we have to pay our witnesses to come to miss work. We have to pay if somebody, for instance, in Lincoln County, we had a victim and her children who were also victims and witnesses in the case that had relocated to West Virginia to go live with family again after being brutally attacked by her domestic partner. And so she had moved and we had to get her back up for trial. As most people know, right, or as I think people are starting to get an idea that about 97% of cases end up settling one way or another. Very few cases actually go to trial, but when they do, we need to make sure we have those witnesses there. So in Lincoln County, for instance, in that case, we had to pay for airfare, hotel, missed work, etc. And we've had cases in the past of, for instance, one of the worst types of cases that we prosecute are vehicular manslaughters. And if those are, if part of the theory of the case is that somebody was under the influence of a drug, we have to get the chemist, who I think the last time that we had one of these trials was 2018, and the chemist had to come from Pennsylvania, and the bill was about $20,000. So that would be an outlier, but we never know when that's gonna happen. So we always budget what we think is a reasonable amount of money. We are anticipating, we are having more trials right now. The COVID backlog or the COVID kind of hiatus in trials and in person has really, at least who knows what's gonna happen in the future. But we are ticking away and having our trials. We just haven't had big expenses in those as of yet, knock on wood. But that's why we kind of put that as a, as a good median year, what we might spend. But it could certainly be far more than that, and it could be almost nothing.
So it was interesting because I had recently seen the name of a gentleman from Unity in the paper under the court news, and I was like, again? And it was from an arrest, I think, in February 2019. I'm like, it just went to trial or whatever, I don't know if there was an actual trial or finally actually hit the thing. But I have a question for the commissioners. Unspent lines, does that go into your surplus / discretionary account?
Undesignated funds.
So it doesn't stay within the department, it rolls
Does not carry
into.
over.
And I have a quick question. And it's probably not about the numbers exactly, but how do you handle sovereign citizen cases?
So we treat sovereign citizens just the way we would treat anybody else, but sovereign citizens don't negotiate with us, so it tends to be, they tend to end up having more trials sometimes. I had a trial here myself in Waldo County a couple of years ago with a sovereign citizen. I have offered in the past to staff it for the lower level. These are often these are going to be driving offenses that have something to do with registering your car or maintaining a driver's license. That's what it tends to be. We did have a sovereign citizen case in Saginaw County recently that was an OUI. These tend to be these kind of civil disobedience. I won't register my car. We don't want to have trials over registering a car. We have had that in Rockland because we had somebody that was just completely unwilling to cooperate. Up here, we've had operating after revocation. That was the case I tried. So what ends up happening is that those folks tend to not negotiate those cases with us. Often we just want people to get in compliance with their license.
Yeah.
And they won't do it. And everybody has a right to have a trial. And so they're typically, those types of trials are very simple matters, and I have offered personally in the past to cover those in my district because my prosecutors have more difficult cases
Sure.
often to try, but they're interesting. And if you ever get a chance to see one, you can learn a lot about the sovereign citizen movement. And Waldo County is the home of, I believe, the Maine militia, and we have a lot of sovereign citizens up here. A lot of folks are absolutely wonderful to speak with, but they are not interested in our criminal justice system because of their system of beliefs. So, yeah.
So does it cause you a lot of extra work, a lot of?
We have to have a trial that's, in my opinion, some of these trials, people are shooting themselves in the foot to say, we're trying to get people out of trouble, get people to come just in basic compliance so they don't have to be in trouble. But because of their stringent beliefs, they aren't willing to negotiate. So yeah, anytime we have a trial, it is extra work. And if we're happy to do it. But in these cases, often folks could have a much better outcome because we're going to be able to prove the cases. And what we're looking to do is really just get them in compliance so they don't have to have a repercussion. It really depends on what the case is. If it's an OUI, we're going to seek a conviction. Yeah. And that's going to happen no matter what. And it doesn't matter what the, what somebody's political beliefs are. But if you're looking at somebody who, it has a suspended license because they didn't pay a fine, we would just like them to get their license back and, no harm, no foul. But that tends to not.
Yeah, we had a case where the guy wouldn't register his dog.
Yes. So
just register the damn dog and get him the shots.
Yeah. No, I wish we could have like a meeting of just kind of with these things. Because again, I do think most of the time it would benefit the sovereign citizens themselves. to negotiate, to just get in compliance, but, hey, that's what makes a horse race, as my grandfather would say, so.
Thank you.
Can you just give us a sense of how many times a year your office deals with sovereign citizen issues?
We deal with them, I mean, I would think almost every, I would say we would have one at least half the court, I don't know, do you think half the court dates is?
Yeah, probably, I would say probably 50%. I mean, it's quite often, right? It's hard to put a number on it just by guessing today.
And
but-
some people do kind of, I don't want to say give it, but they, it's like, sometimes you're looking at potentially a jail sentence or prison sentence, for these license issues. Whereas if you get in compliance, you can avoid that. And occasionally people do see the light there, but yeah, I would say when I'm in Waldo County, we see it more often, maybe half the time. In other counties, though, we do see it at least, I would say at least, 10-20% of the time. It's a pretty normal routine.
I had no idea that was an issue here.
Yeah.
I read about it, national news, but
Yeah, and every defendant or every person charged with the crime has the right to hold the state to their proof. So I don't have any issue with that. But sometimes when it's just hurting them, I had a trial myself where somebody could have really avoided some difficulties and they wouldn't, and they ended up going to jail for 6 months after the trial, and not what I wanted to do, but that's what it comes down to sometimes, is that you're not going to just dismiss the charge.
Would you suggest that, as town officials, we notify you guys that we think we have a sovereign citizen who's probably gonna be, or who has a court date with you, or?
No, I mean, we know usually pretty immediately, and I mean, there's people, all sorts of different beliefs that come into the court, and we treat everybody the same and with respect, and we try and do the same thing with everybody. But we know pretty quickly usually once we have somebody that's a sovereign citizen, and again, we treat everybody that we can with respect, and most of the time, just sovereign citizens, just like the rest of us, right? Most of them are really polite and kind and easy to deal with, other than the fact that they're not going to negotiate with the state. Occasionally you have a grouchy one, but that's the case for everybody, right? So, it's a thing that we have to deal with, but it's not terrible. I don't
Okay,
think. It's
sorry
easy
to
for me
get
to
us
say
kind
that.
of off the topic.
It's interesting.
yeah. Any other questions for the district attorney? Okay. Great, well, with that, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion that we approve on line 1015 district attorney $262,000.
Second that.
Motion moved by Penny, second by Bob. Any further discussion? All right, call for vote. Penny?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Elaine?
Aye.
Tom? Linda? Okay, aye. I vote yes.
Thank you very much. Go ahead and see you all again.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Moving along to 10:30 facilities. 19.
Howdy, Keith Neely, Facilities Manager. Sure, you noticed my budget was increased. It was pretty much all energy related increases that were happening. We had, well, actually, I'll start at the top. I had my facilities tech, my helper retired after 15 years with the county, so I'm searching now for somebody to train in that position. And it's tough to find people that want to work $20 an hour. And I mean, we've got great benefits here, health insurance, lots of time off, paid holidays, but just to get people in the door for an interview has just been crazy trying to find somebody that's interested. So I'm sure we're not unique in that aspect. The workforce is pretty dismal out there. Electrical costs, in that category, I was up like 11.5 for the whole category. And after discussion with the commissioners, I reduced that by 2,500, but it's kind of a moving target. Currently, I look at my costs to date, I'm overdrawn on a couple of the 2 or 3 of the accounts. And I expect all but one of those to be over my last year's estimates by the end of the year. I don't know what's gonna happen with electricity. We've tried other vendors. I'm currently with CMP. I've tried other people in the past, and I found that they lowball coming in, and then all of a sudden you're creeping up on, and before you know it, you're paying more than you would initially sticking with CMP, which I mean, I get offers, I get phone calls, emails every day for folks that want to be our energy supplier. And it's, I don't really, I haven't had a lot of recommendations as to, oh, this supplier works really great and they'll hold the, they'll hold the price for 10 years or whatever. I think way back we had some folks that held it for 3 years and then bang, they're over a lot over what we're paying for CMP. So I'm currently just past 3 or 4 years have maintained with CMP. The other energy issue, of course, is fuel. And last year we made the decision to convert to propane in this building, as well as at the jail, or the reentry, which is one of our primary users of number 2 heating oil. And I locked in on my propane costs at $2 a gallon. So we were smiling all the way to the bank with that. And I talked to my fuel supplier the other day, and he's like, I want to lock in now. He said, fixed prices are going away. There's none of the suppliers are going to offer any fixed prices on fuel oil. So, because they don't know what's going to happen. The Superior Courthouse, where the DA's office reside in the Registry of Deeds, that is our biggest offender when it comes to fuel oil. It's an old building. It's got a boiler half the size of this room, of 1 billion BTUs with steam heat that sucks up oil like mad. The good news is that I've got a 4,000 gallon tank, which is full of fuel oil, and I purchased it last year's prices, which was a little under $3 a gallon. So I can probably limp through the winter without purchasing any fuel oil there, but what does that do next year? Who knows what fuel oil is going to be. So I budgeted some extra money for that. Of course, with the efficiencies, propane is not as efficient as fuel oil, so we do use more propane, but not proportionally as much as we would use with fuel oil. So,
What are your current costs for propane?
right now, I'm locked in at $2 a gallon, $1.99. So I can't complain about that. That is through May of next year. And then I'll go out to bid for, the following year. So.
What's happening with the Superior Court?
Well, as you know, I'm sure you've been by the garden site on 141 out there where there's a new EMA facility going up. The folks from the DA's office will be moving up to the old public safety building. Deeds, we're still figuring out a spot for them to go. I think we've got some ideas of where that might happen. And probably, Commissioner Shorey, that building will be up for sale at some point, or every time I talk to the city of Belfast, they're like, hey, we need more space. We want to, we want this for office space. So maybe there's an opportunity there to negotiate with the city and do something with them, with that building. It's probably 2 years down the road before anything
Does
happens.
that building have to stay due to any sort of historical?
Does it have to stay?
Not like a,
Tear down, demolish.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Sometimes old buildings just gotta go.
Well, it's a beautiful old building.
Yeah.
It's straight as an arrow, and the only thing is that the infrastructure of the building is the steam heat. All the AC is from window units, so there's no AC in the building. The lighting is and electrical have been mismatched, upgraded here and there over the years, but it was built. The original building was built in 1840, and it's like I said, the roof is straight as an arrow. It's a beautiful building. I'd hate to see it go.
I have a quick question. Have any of the county's investment on ARPA funds decreased or increased any of your costs?
Well, obviously, there'll be a change in cost when we start paying for energy for the new building out there. No, I don't think it's changed a heck of a lot.
Okay.
Yes.
We thought of using heat pumps in that building and going through Efficiency Maine to get some type of a rebate. I know this Town of Freedom is doing that right now to get heat pumps in our town office, which is, apples to oranges, I know. But is that even a possibility? Have you looked into that?
Well, I don't have a lot of people living there anymore. I mean, we don't use the upstairs courtroom in that old building, and the offices we have existing AC units, and it's it's a brick building with granite floors, so it takes a lot for it to get warm in the summertime, and if the window units need to do what we need to do. We've got, we put heat pumps in here. I've got heat pumps. I put in all the day rooms up at the reentry center because those things there was no ventilation. So it was like being inside a box there. So at least we've got some cool air moving up there. So yeah, and over the years, probably what, Karen, I've got, I don't know, half a dozen rebates through Efficiency Maine for heat pumps. So I always avail myself of any of their programs that they offer. But I'm not sure what will happen with
And
that.
that building sucks a lot of electricity.
Yeah.
And that's what those run off.
Yeah, it uses and it uses about 5,000 gallons of fuel a year to heat that whole Superior Court. So at today's price, 25 grand a year. So, I have no idea. Of course, we'll drop the heat back as we lose tenants and then figure out what we're gonna do, but I can't drain the pipes and shut the building down because that's never a good thing with an old building.
Yeah.
Kind of have to be.
Yes, Penny.
Have we, I can't believe I'm saying this, have we ever looked into solar? Putting like solar arrays on,
As far as generating electric,
yeah, for like individual buildings or?
We've talked about it. We have a solar hot water system at the reentry center that we've been using about, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now, that heats all of our hot water in the summertime and supplements our hot water in the shoulder months and the winter time. So as far as electric, Commissioner Shorey and I at one time talked about putting an array out at the farm. But we discussed it, but we didn't go any further with it. I know like the firehouse has that big Belfast fire has that big array, and there's some period of time when there's a payback, but you have to have the right exposure to get the most out of the electric.
We looked into it, like a municipal solar, and it wasn't because we had already updated to LED and we have a new town office and a new fire
Mhm.
department, it was gonna be like 20 years before we received any sort of payback, so it didn't make sense for our municipality, but I
Yep.
don't know if it would make sense for some county.
The town of Waldo has 3 solar arrays that are, I think the payback was projected 6 to 7 years is when it was gonna be paying itself back, so. Certainly seems like with the rate that electricity is going now specifically, that if there was a location that we could put in a solar array, not on a roof necessarily, which might be more expensive to put in, but an open space that you can control the angle of the panels, control the layout, that there's a real opportunity to offset this cost, and I understand there's upfront costs associated with that. A lot of times you can deal with the financing through a power purchase agreement and someone else take the tax benefit and essentially sell you the power at rates, and then you buy the system from them when the tax benefits have expired. And that's what the town of Islesboro has done, and I think it's probably worth, especially as you see the increase in costs here and the amount, the scale of just electricity usage for the county. Seems like it has the potential to work.
I feel like all of you have been reading my mind, because I've been burning to say exactly what you've been saying. I think the commissioners county really needs to take a very strong look at putting in solar. I mean, look at these increases, 50%, 44%, 25%, 53%, 17%. I'm reading all of the electrical needs. We have a massive solar array in Lincolnville that offsets basically our entire municipal electrical needs, not including the school system, but we plan on addressing that in the future. I got solar on my roof. You know, we can control our own destiny with that. And hearing you talk about the struggles of how to rein in those electricity costs, it's the best way to do it. I'm glad to hear we have a lot of heat pumps in a number of our county buildings. Putting aside the Superior Court, I would urge the commissioners to strongly consider putting a lot more in, and trying to really heat our building as much as possible exclusively with the heat pumps where it's practical. Because again, fuel costs are only going up. We can't control that, but we can control, putting in more heat pumps and having solar run that. I'm wondering, the new EMA building, is that being engineered specifically to run mostly on heat pumps?
They will have propane heat there, but he is planning on some type of solar array on the roof for electricity at that facility.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if they're gonna use heat pumps there or not, but I know that it's got radiant heat in-floor heating with a propane boiler.
Is that engineering set in stone already?
Well, the concrete's run and
Okay.
so
Like
it
set in
is
stone.
literally set in stone. Yeah. But not saying that a heat pump in their common room or their meeting area wouldn't be out of the question. No, I think that's something they could explore.
I think we underestimate how much heating heat pumps can provide. I mean, the latest one I think can pull heat out of the air when the ambient temperature is, -5 degrees or
Mhm.
something incredible like that.
I had my whole house pretty much all last winter with a heat pump.
Wow.
It's a small double wide, well insulated, brand new, all of those things. So, that was part of it. But
we have one at the farm now.
Yeah.
And we've had it for 2 years.
Yeah, I have heat pumps in every building except for that old Superior Court and
And that's a different case.
yeah,
entirely.
and
I
that
think-
building's probably gonna go not be in our possession in the next couple of years, so who knows what will happen with it.
Yeah.
But I agree that it's a great use of energy. The only issue I have with it is that in order to, I'd have to put one in each office in order to keep everybody happy, there's not really a common area where you can put one heat pump and have it service the whole building, so it would be a number of heat pumps that we would need.
I've seen heat pump systems that are, there's ducts throughout the building and they would be, in the ceiling.
Mhm,
So that's a possibility too, for a new build at least.
mhm.
It seems like it's worth looking long-term at this, and we're talking about solar, we're talking about moving the heat pumps, and as things move forward, it seems like, at least from where I sit, that the planning and putting in electric heat versus, heat pumps specifically, as you're thinking about a solar array, and you're starting to offset not only electricity, which is going up, but heating oil, which is also going up. And this is not the kind of thing that you say, we're gonna do all next year, right? It's the kind of thing that you plan for, and as new buildings get built and as updates are done, there just needs to be a long-term vision about a solar array, the scale of the solar array, about what we need to plan for the future, so that once those initial upfront costs are invested, then you're essentially getting free electricity and free heat. And to the extent that solar panels degrade in usage, I mean, they continue to work for a very long time, even at a reduced capacity of like 75%. So there's no real need to get rid of them, and you can always add panels to your array and get more capacity. So it seems like having a plan in place for that, for countywide is the thing to do now, and start planning for the future and try to eliminate and avoid some of these costs as soon as we can.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with the opening dialogue. And like I said, Commissioner Shore and I spoke about this last year, and we did some research on it, and I'll just bring it back around. And I think it was, can't remember if it was Revision Energy that came out and did an assessment, but we just have to, our only location now is the garden site where we have some acreage where we could put an array, other than on top of any of the buildings. We will definitely look into that. I agree.
And the more electric cars that the county has, the more, again, it's free energy from the sun, so.
Right.
Reducing fuel costs there as well, so. And just to say that, yeah, it would be good to plan for more energy use in the future than less when designing that array. Yes, Penny.
Speaking of electric vehicles, does the county have any EV chargers?
We do not. The city maintains the one that's down here.
And they have a second one.
Well, I'm curious if we do end up, this is like long-term visionary thing, if we do end up going with more county vehicles being electric, then it would kind of make sense that the county would have at some of its facilities EV chargers.
I believe there's a program right now that'll offset something like 90% of the
Yeah.
cost to install electric chargers for municipalities. And I know that Ellsworth is looking at that right now. It's like 80% for a private business and 90% for a government or entity.
They approached Freedom, and I don't think we've got 3, electric vehicles in the whole town. And then we had talked about, putting one at the town office, except that it was just gonna be inconvenient for, people that live in the outer parts. So we decided that, if someone has an electric vehicle, it's up to them to have their own charger at their home. But it wasn't completely taken off the table. It's just kind of set on the back burner, and then we'll wait and see in another year or two as to, what's going on there.
Yeah, and I think the goal is to create a nationwide infrastructure, so
Yeah.
people who are coming from further away, because I think most people who have an electric car are going to be charging at their house.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, but for
But
someone who's coming through,
yeah, and where we are right there on 137, we're halfway between Augusta, Belfast, Waterville. And then we're not that far from Bangor. It would make sense to have something, and the town, if the town owned it, my thought is they would put their little credit card in and plug in, and then, the owner would pay for whatever electricity they used. And it wouldn't have to be attended by like a gas station attendant, using that for a bad example, but.
Yes, Penny.
So side note, not really county, but Unity, our Economic Development Committee
Mhm.
is seriously looking into the EV chargers to put at
Yes,
our high visitation places. Because it's an economic driver. So right
Mhm.
now we have them, there's actually one at Clifford Commons where our post office is.
yeah, that's good.
There's one at Mofga. And there's a couple, I think, at the college, but who's gonna go up to the college and charge your cars? So we're
Need
looking at,
something to do while the car's being charged.
right, so
Yeah,
we're
looking
looking
at it
at
from a
putting
sales
on
point of view.
the library and the train station. Which are our high touristy areas, so.
And we've got the lost kids.
So we've got people working on that, so.
I think those applications are
Be in
due
touch
next
later.
month for anybody who's in for Efficiency Maine. I think
Yeah.
it's through Efficiency Maine. If you
Yeah.
search for it, it's, but yeah, they'll pay for quite a bit of the install costs of charging stations.
I'll look into that for the town. Place to start if we start with one charging station. The high, like you say, high traffic areas.
So what up, front of Rennie's?
But for county vehicles, you probably want to have it at like a county facility.
Right.
Like maybe at the sheriff's office slash communications center.
Absolutely, yeah.
But if the county owned the one that was in front of Rennie's, then that would be a source of revenue.
Keep in mind, I believe it's much more expensive to install like the charge point ones where there's a point of sale versus simply
Oh, yeah, definitely.
installing one that gives away energy.
I have not done the homework as to whether it would be cost effective and, I'm just, the salesman in me is saying if we put, in that parking area, then people from away, Rennie's is a main adventure, plug in while you go shopping,
Right.
you know.
Great. Any additional questions? Okay. All right, well, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve 1030 facilities management in the amount of $331,668.
Second.
Okay, motion was by Penny, seconded by Elaine. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call for vote. Okay, aye. Linda? Aye. Tom? Aye. Elaine?
I,
Yes.
Okay. And I vote yes as well.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Okay. Moving briskly along to Department 1065 Registry of Deeds. Thank you, Grant.
Good morning. I tried to keep my budget down as low as I can. The increases are, so the personnel is up by the cost of living and a step raise. And I had 3 lines that were in the negative just a little bit the last few years, and they were due to rate increases. For example, so telephone, I increased by $300. The PO box rental, I increased by $50, and my alarm monitoring ones, I increased by $10 just to get them so they're not showing negative every year. My typewriter repairs line, I did take that line out because we are no longer using our typewriters, which was $250. And all my other lines are the same as last year.
Any questions?
I'll make a motion that we approve 1065 Registry of Deeds, $248,670.
Second.
Okay, motion moved and seconded. Any discussion? Not a single one. All right, I'll call for a vote. Penny?
Yes.
Bob?
Aye.
Yes. Okay. All right. Oh, yes. Thank you so much. All right, moving along to Department 1075, the Sheriff's Office, and 1050 Jail.
Morning, everyone. Stay back there, go on the line fire. All right, so everybody I think knows Matt. I got Matt with me. I think we'll start off by talking about a couple of things that are additions to our budget. I'll cover the one which is in the personnel line, and then I'll have Matt speak to the other significant increase, which is in our capital outlay. So in our personnel line, you'll see that we've added 2 new deputies positions. So part of what we did earlier this year, we learned that the federal government had come out with the COPS grant again. They had suspended that program for a few years, but they reinstated it this year. And it basically covers up to $125,000 worth of pay and salary benefits over a course of 3 years for a new hire position. But what they did do when they put that out was they put it out and said that the grant funding had to be specifically for community policing efforts. So we have some staffing needs at the sheriff's office. Not all around community policing. In my view, some of them are around traffic enforcement and some other issues that we really need. But what we did do was we crafted we came to the commissioners before we did much of anything actually. And we expressed to the commissioners that this was an opportunity that we could, if we needed personnel, that this was a way to defer some of those costs. And so the commissioners agreed to allow us to apply for the grant. They actually gave us some funding to retain a grant writer to help me because I'd never done a COPS grant before. And so the other element of that, before I go talking about the grant, was that's kind of been on the horizon for a little while and is quite a bit of concern to the sheriff's office, is the reorganization of the Maine State Police. So over the last few years, we've had a couple of ongoing conversations, and we'd heard rumors that the state police were considering reorganizing, shifting their duties around. Last year, we ended up having a conversation where that was confirmed, and that we could expect that there was going to be a significant shift within their organization. They, like law enforcement all across the country, are struggling to fill their ranks, especially in the patrol divisions. They're down a lot of positions. Over the years, the legislature has assigned new responsibilities to them. So every time they try to find a new trooper to fill those responsibilities, they tend to do it from the rank and file of road patrol. So they have really struggled to maintain their agreements around call share and answering calls for service. So they came to us last year and said that we could anticipate at some point in the next few years that there would be a shift, and that likely at some point in the near future, they would be moving away from calls for service. And as most of you folks know, we have had a long-standing call share agreement with the Maine State Police where they cover about 25% of our calls for service. So we cover, give or take, around 9,000. They cover about 2,500 calls for service a year. So with that looming on the horizon, it causes us a considerable amount of concern. We are top to bottom on our patrol side, 22 strong sworn. And that's, when you look at a county of 800 square miles, 40,000 people, that's one sworn officer for every 1,800. You look at the national average of law enforcement agencies across this country, it's one sworn for about every 425. So we're about 4.5 times below what a national average would be. And we're not one city, we're 26 communities, and we're covering 800 square miles, 9,000 calls for service. And on top of that, we're on track for about 2,000 traffic spots this year. So our guys are doing a tremendous amount of work right now, and I think they're feeling it. But if we shift another 2,500 calls for service onto them, there's going to be a lot of things that we're going to have to really start prioritizing what we can and what we can't respond to, and what we can and can't do. And to be quite honest, over this last year, as I've been out campaigning, I've been hearing a lot of people in the public talking about public safety as far as specifically around traffic.
and wanting to see more and asking like, well, we don't see the deputies doing enough traffic work. And I try to explain that, you know, when you spread even 2,000 traffic stops out over a 800 square mile canvas, it's pretty easy for that to get swallowed up. So recognizing that, you know, we are getting more and more pressure at the office to be more visible and to be seen more and to try to do more traffic work. And then to have that coupled with that looming extra 2,500 calls for service a year, it has certainly led us to think about how do we fill that void ahead of time? Because basically part of that conversation we had with the state police was, you know, we need as much fair warning as humanly possible. Because if you come in here mid-year and tell me that you're going to stop covering those calls for service, I have to try to absorb it with the existing staffing I have, which would be incredibly difficult. So I kind of take the conversation we had last year and some of the stuff you're seeing in the papers is kind of that shot across the bow that we should be expecting that shift and preparing for it. So these two positions are partly in response to that conversation with the state police, knowing that in the near future we're going to need those people, and partly in response to just what I feel is the community's asking us to be more proactive in some of these areas. And to do that, I think we need more people. So, but we have always been a fiscally minded agency, and we've always tried to be very responsible in what we ask for. So that was why we came to the commissioners and asked for that ability to apply for the grant. We recognize that will defer if we get the grant. We were supposed to have heard by the end of September. We still have not, if we've got it or not. But if we do get it, it will defer about $250,000 in that first 3 years off that cost. So when you look at the budget reflects that we got the grant. We put those numbers in being hopeful that we will get it. Obviously, if we get notified that we have not received the grant, that will put the bottom line in a different position.
Yeah,
I'm just curious how you determine your staffing requirements. Is it based on the number of expected calls that you have to attend? Is it, you know, you said the national average is one sworn officer for every 400 people or something like that. But we're down to one officer for every 1,800.
Right.
So how do you sit down and come up with, oh, I need 20 officers or 50 officers or
well, I mean, there's no perfect formula to really figure that out. I mean, let's face it, with one officer for every 1,800, we get the job done. Part of it for me is you have to look at a number of things, and some of them are not clear data points. But when I talk about 9,000 calls for service a year, that is one pretty consistent thing over the last 3 years. So we know that we're going to get those calls for service. And we know roughly what those are made up of. And we know roughly what those cost in time and effort to investigate those. You know, we know roughly how many arrests we make. You know, we make around 400 arrests a year. So we know how much time it takes to process all of those reports and to get those ready for the DA's office and to do that work. We know roughly how many traffic stops that we do, and obviously that generates work every time we do that. So when you start looking at it, you can break it down per officer. You can start looking at how many calls for services each one of those deputies covering. And then you have to look at something that's really not tangible, which is the quality of the work that's being done. Because you can do the work with far less, but you are giving it far less attention. So if something comes in and if it's not a super high priority, it will get tended to get pushed to the side, and you try to focus your efforts on what is a priority. That's part of how to be honest, I think we've got to the point where we are functioning with so low of staff numbers ratio, because we have over the years been very fiscally minded, and we try to do as much as humanly possible with as little as we can to try to keep our tax burden down. But the reality is that, you know, as I go out and talk to people in the public, there is a growing expectation that we need to do more. And for me, I just look at the number of calls for service these guys are doing, the amount of traffic work we're asking them to do. And I recognize that in order to keep the quality of their work up and to give them the time they need to try to do that work, that really we need to have more of those people. I mean, as an example, and I know this is only kind of it's not a data point, but you know, we have structured, Matt came up with a great idea last year about restructuring a call share agreement. So the state police do roughly 25% of our calls. So we went in and we asked them to shift it around so that they would allow us to basically cover the county for 3 days a week. And then on the fourth day, the last day of our 4-day rotation, they would take the entire county. So we call that a blue day. So on those blue days, you know, I go by and I've got every deputy in there and they're feverishly hammering away on the keyboards for hours on end, trying to catch up all of their reports and everything they need to do from the 3 days that they were out literally running from call to call to call. And so when I see that, and they've really got themselves to that point where they're like, that's the mindset they have. All right, I've got to go out and basically drink from a fire hose for 3 days, cover all my calls for service. But I get to the 4th day where I can get back to the office and prepare my reports and get everything closed out and get stuff submitted to the DA and get all that done before I go into my rotation off and come back and do it again. So when I look at that 4th day and I see how much work they're trying to do to catch up from the first 3 days, and I think to myself, what happens if the state police give me the notice tomorrow that they're done? That 4th day is now going to disappear into another day of drinking from a fire hose. So where do they get all of that other, you know, follow-up piece done? It just doesn't happen. And so if that doesn't happen, calls for service fall through the cracks, things don't get followed up on, and the quality of the work they're going to do is going to suffer from that. And so those are some of the things that we look at, some of the data points, and then just some of what I'm watching every day as far as the amount of work these guys are doing.
So what would drop off if you had to eliminate certain activities because you're too busy with the higher priority activities?
Well, if you look at some of the larger police organizations across the country, you know, our sheriff is very big on customer service. If somebody calls the sheriff's office, it doesn't matter how serious or minor that call is, he wants them to talk with the deputy and in person if they possibly can. You know, he functions under the belief that regardless how mundane a call is to the person calling in, it's important, and so we should treat it that way. And I hold that same belief. But we have to recognize that we have a lot of conversations sometimes with folks on say, civil calls for service that there's not a crime committed, and it's pretty easy to determine very quickly there's not a crime committed. So we could simply say we're not going to have those conversations. You know, go call a civil attorney or call someone else. We're not going to deal with it. You know, there's I can guarantee you traffic work would take a hit if the guys are going from call to call to call. If they don't have any spare time in between those calls, or the spare time they do have is eaten up with doing follow-up on that or doing the reports on it, traffic work will absolutely slack off. You know, so some of those low-hanging cases that maybe we can recognize early on that are not criminal, I can tell you that there are places across this country where even misdemeanors are not handled by law enforcement agencies. If it's a misdemeanor, they'll tell you to, you know, go to the court and swear out your own complaint against your neighbor for assault or trespass or something. So there are places where they've had to resort to those types of systems where they push those lower calls off, or they simply refuse to respond to them completely. Personally, my feeling is that when you begin to do that, you erode the relationship that you have with your community. Because if somebody's picked up the phone, they called us, then it was obviously important enough that they felt like that needed to be done. And so you know, one of the things that we've done at the sheriff's office was back a number of years ago, about 3 years ago. I was working with some of our community partners and we started our community liaison program. And so that community liaison is a social worker and they have a background in education and social work and training around substance use, mental illness, some of these different types of conflict resolution. The other part of that grant that we got was with restorative justice, and they started a community conflict resolution team. So we did those efforts to try to find a way to address some of these issues as they come up. So when a deputy gets on the phone and realizes that, yeah, this is a neighbor dispute, but there hasn't been a crime committed. Can I send this to the liaison? Can the liaison sit down with them, maybe connect them with RJP to maybe have a conversation and see if they can resolve this in some way that doesn't continue to absorb law enforcement services. What's that?
Or escalate.
Or escalate to that. You know, I've said this 100 times and over the last year, you know, a lot of my frustration as a young deputy was responding to calls over and over and over again where nobody needed to go to jail, but that didn't mean that there wasn't a whole lot of either crisis or social issues, problems going on there that needed to be addressed. But my only real resource was, you know, recourse was to get in my car and drive away, hope that it either resolved itself or knowing that it would rise to the level of a crime at some point and I'd be back there taking someone to jail. So that program we really started as a gap filler to see if we could find a way to use local resources to address some of those issues so that we could take some of that burden off law enforcement. You know, it's one of the reasons why we created an administrative sergeant's position to try to pull some of those duties away from patrol services that they were trying to do to get cases prepared in that process of pipeline of getting things to the DA's office and some of that other stuff. But there's still a certain amount that the deputy has to do. They're the ones going to the calls, they're the ones having the conversations. So there's only so much you can pull away from them. There's just a certain amount that they have to be responsible for. So we are trying to be creative in ways of shifting some of those low-level calls to outside resources that are, in my mind, either grant funded or cheaper to have than a trained law enforcement officer. But at the end of the day, there's still certain war piece that they need to be responsible for. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So I have a slew of questions. My first question is, how many vehicles that are owned by the sheriff's department are unmarked?
Do you have a firm number on that?
By unmarked, the civil deputies have, it's not a fully marked cruiser that they use, but it is marked as a county vehicle. So the unmarked vehicles that the sheriff's office would have that are like have a regular license plate, like the one you see me drive. The sheriff, the chief, myself, the 2 patrol sergeants currently have that, and 3 detectives.
Now, I understand the importance of having unmarked vehicles. But wouldn't it be conducive for visibility and people knowing that the sheriff's department is in town to have some more of those vehicles actually marked, so they say, yes, I saw that truck, that was the sheriff's department's truck?
A lot of the trucks, I know, excuse me, the patrol sergeants are kind of registered. They do have their regular plates and they have decals available to them, like magnetic ones if they wanted to do that, or for a specific function, like a high visibility function.
Could you put a magnetic sign on your truck? Because you know people slow down, because you know the biggest complaint that I hear in town is speeding and not stopping. And I almost had a road rage moment a couple weeks ago. But if people saw more marked vehicles in town, you know they're gonna slow down and you know they're gonna stop at the stop sign.
I think you're talking specifically about Unity. I'll talk specifically about Unity too. I think we're pretty fortunate in Unity. We get a lot of attention up there. Just because it is kind of the service center up in that end of the county.
Right.
You know, with more cars obviously would, potentially, I don't know if I'm, where all the metal on my truck to actually hang a magnet. I know my bed is all, plastic or some kind of polymer, whatever, we run into that on a couple of them. We gotta get treated.
Yeah, but is there any particular reason why your truck has to remain unmarked?
I don't know if there's any particular reason, no.
Or the chief deputies or the sheriff? I can understand the detective, obviously.
I mean, there's no specific reason why, but they have to be.
That was my first question. That is an open answer. This is gonna, at the risk of sounding unpatriotic, which I am very patriotic, being a 40+ year member of the American Legion Auxiliary. How much does the county spend on Race Across America for the sheriff's department?
We work with our deputies association. We will send a vehicle. A single vehicle. And we will pay the tolls. But I don't think they're actually charged tolls when we do that. But that's something we talk about. I don't recall a specific.
So we're not paying the deputies time for going?
If they go, it's up. Yes, they are.
They're
They
paid,
get their regular time. That when they go to that.
so they're not using vacation time, that's paid time that they could be servicing the county instead
Yes.
of traveling to
And-
Virginia.
If I can finish on that,
Okay,
it's up to those guys. To cover the other shifts while they're gone.
so the taxpayers are paying for the deputies' time, hotels,
Split with the association.
meals,
Those are provided for them by.
okay,
Reeds.
gas.
Yes, we pay gas.
And so do we have an estimate on how much that cost the county last year?
I didn't pull that specifically out, Penny, but if you'd like me to look that up, I could get you a number for the next meeting.
I would,
Yes,
and since we're working together next Saturday morning, if you can have that for me, so I can,
I'll do what I can.
okay, thank you. I know you're busy. And my next question was the school resource officer.
Yes,
What are we receiving for reimbursement per
Well-
year? Which is. My understanding, and the reason I ask is because having attended the RSU3 budget meetings before, I know the school was reimbursing the county like $60,000. But my understanding now as a school resource officer, instead of working as a school resource officer for 9 months out of the year, is now doing it for full 12 months.
yes,
So I want to make sure that we're actually being reimbursed.
we are.
We're
Yep.
being
For the full
reimbursed
12 months.
99,478.87 is wages and benefits.
And vehicle.
We,
And
you know, we renegotiated that when they came to us and asked us to basically. Because you're right, we had it set up at a percentage where he came back to us during the summer, and during that time, we assigned him to our detectives division. So we would use him during summer break as a detective. They came to us and said they had enough duties that they really would like to keep him around. So Matt sat down, basically redid that whole agreement with them and passed 100% of his cost, yearly cost on to the school.
And so my next question for follow-up would actually be with RSU3, why they think the school resource officer.
And that's Belfast. or-
No, that's Mountain View.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the towns plus the plantation. My next question is, who paid for the hiring bonuses for the new deputies?
You have a severance, you come out of the budget.
Okay, so severance,
Is in a reserve set aside for when people get done or assisting with helping out when you have to buy an officer out from another entity or the sign-on bonuses.
so yeah, that's what it was, the sign-off bonuses, why would they, I don't understand why they would come out of severance, which is if somebody.
It's severance
retires.
assistance. It's not, it's set up for multiple things.
Okay,
It's not just some.
Alright. And then my next question. So I understand we have a new canine.
Yes.
So having raised, showed and bred German Shepherds. And if you're an old timer, you might remember Ted Reed's dog Mitzi from Searsport, who was one of our German Shepherds. That was a gazillion years ago. I was looking at the cost of the new canine. And I don't disagree with the food amount if you're buying Science Diet, which is a high-end dog food.
Are you looking at this?
The-
10,
on the
75,
last
70,
page,
11,
yeah.
1, 2,
So if you're looking at like supplies and emergent care,
yes.
it's actually 2850, and I'm wondering if you know what, I understand dogs need vet,
Yes.
and sometimes they need something in addition to their vaccines.
Yes.
Can we look into insurance?
I know they do offer pet insurance. I don't know.
How
I don't know definitively, Penny. Sorry, one, if they'll offer for a dog that's being used in that capacity. That emergent care, that it, as far as that supplies and emergent care line, that's basically, we're trying to come up with one emergency vet visit with that.
Which can be very expensive.
It absolutely can. I thought I hit it pretty low, to be honest with you. On that line, it was, we graciously been, as far as regular checkups go, those have been donated to us, so we don't have any costs.
Side note, I think it's great that we have a canine back in the county again. Even if it's not a German Shepherd. And that's all the questions I have, Josh. That's all, I think.
Okay, any other questions? I have a few questions. So we have 5 new vehicles.
Yes.
In the budget. I was wondering, so the civil deputy vehicles, on average, how many miles a day would you say? Those drive?
It really varies quite a bit depending on the paperwork service, but that civil vehicles are, we charge mileage for those for the paperwork service piece. So that goes back into that. The detail count, thank you. Name mistake. But it's a varying number. I don't have a specific one, I'm sorry.
Okay. And then the patrol vehicles, how many, again, I'm sure it varies, but.
It does.
what's the range?
We're still running somewhere between, I would expect this year, I have not done the annual mileage this year, but we've got a full staff. Traditionally, we've been running around 550,000 miles collectively for the year.
Okay. How's the hybrid going?
I just had to sign a $2,000 repair bill for the hybrid that wasn't covered under warranty. I just signed it. It was from a couple months ago. I was not very happy, to be honest, as far as apparently the alternator wasn't considered part of the electrical system, which the battery, but with a regular, because it's the combo, so it's got a regular battery as well. And I was just I was able to state the repair costs this early on with that vehicle, and it wasn't neat to me. I know the state police have had, and again, this is anecdotal. I don't have a specific number. They've had some struggles with theirs. I know Belfast PD had struggles with one of theirs to the point that their most recent cruiser they just bought.
Excuse me, could you speak your suburban audience?
A little louder, sure. I know that Belfast, locally had a poor experience with theirs to the point where, from an availability standpoint and just because of history, they actually the last Explorer they bought was a traditional drivetrain. I haven't given up on the EV thing. I know you guys got talking about it with Keith, trying to make it fit with our mission, not just with the sheriff's office, but with the correctional center too.
Yeah.
I have looked at Efficiency Maine for the rebates, depending on what type of charger you buy. Depends on the amount of rebate you'll get, and there are some rebates for municipal government entities right now. We could, I have asked to demo one of the Ford Lightning pickup trucks. With the thought process being that if that was assigned to either a civil division or a an administrator type car, that could be plugged in at the office. So I'm looking at different charging stations. I looked at the correction center has a reentry center has a more regular route that they travel that would fit in the range. On the patrol side, I'm struggling with the range still.
Yeah.
On with the EVs. I've talked with a vendor out in the, I want to say they're out Colorado way, that will actually do a retrofit for a like a partition type, something that you could transport folks in. I was at a little bit of sticker shock. It was around $150,000 for the van. It was a bunch.
Yeah.
But I know, I think as a municipality, or as a government entity, being the county, I think we'd be eligible for like a $7,500 credit up to 5 per year is what they're offering right now. It was a month ago when I had this right in front of me. I was joking around with the police chief in Belfast a little bit. They just got a motorcycle. And I'm like, well, there's some fuel savings, because I mean, I've certainly seen the price of the pump. Obviously, it wouldn't be practical in January.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, I kind of merged the two ideas in my head. I'm like, what about an electric motorcycle?
Yeah.
For, want to go out to Islesboro for the day? Take the motorcycle. You want to go, you got some problems in downtown Unity with some speeding, use the electric motorcycle. You got the common ground fare to get around at, use that. And I do not know, I haven't got an answer yet if that does qualify for that rebate. And I don't have a firm price unless it's like 50. But I thought it would be, I know it's kind of a dream stage right now, but the more I thought about it, I came to Jason and I'm like, electric motorcycle. And he's like, you gotta be kidding me. I'm like, no. We're gonna do this. I don't know if it'll get off the ground.
Yeah.
But my point being is the chief of Belfast has started a motorcycle unit. He has some trainers that could actually, so it'd be free training if we could get it done. I just thought it would be kind of in the right place. I think we could use something like that, whether it happens or not. I still am interested in that Ford Lightning truck. The price points seem to be good. I think we could absolutely put a couple chargers in, working with Keith, with the dispatch center and the DA's office, move it up there, and us, if we were to get one or two, I think it'd be great, to have a couple of charging stations. I've heard you guys loud and clear. And
That's good to hear.
I'm trying. I mean, it doesn't seem like the technology's quite there for what we're doing as a control function. And I don't know if, the hybrid sounds nice, and we have 2 of them now. The other one I haven't had any issues with, so we're 50-50. Yeah, and the other one's working again, so we'll get on it. I don't know. I think maybe one or the other. I'm not, with my experience now, I'm not sold on a hybrid model. I think one or the other is that's kind of what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
So
I agree too. I think hybrid was a great gap to fill.
Yeah.
And now it's more complicated, right? You're
Absolutely.
smashing together two
systems.
And they figured that out with the Prius, but other ones not so much. I mean, electric cars we talk about are very simple.
Sure.
Ultimately. So and I was just curious, do you know of any sheriff's departments or municipal police departments in Maine that have electric cars deployed yet?
I don't have any sheriff's offices. I think that we're all kind of in the same boat with that rural patrol piece. I thought I heard something down the southern part of the state. They had an electrics, like, was it I don't say
One of the bigger-
Portland or South Portland or something, maybe.
One of the bigger ones down
Yeah.
south had done something, and I think they were testing one,
Yeah.
trying to see if it would work. And we had that conversation around the difference between a municipality where those cars often come back to the station and they're parked for the next rotation around. So if you had enough of them, as long as it was always one charge that they could take out, you could have the other ones there charging, which our system is a little different because our vehicles tend to be take home. So then it's like, do you try to install a charging station at every deputy's house and who pays for that? And so we really have been having, our conversations have largely circled around corrections, which is one of those things that leaves and comes back, or admin vehicles that tend to be around long enough for a civil service vehicle that could be around long enough to actually charge. But
The obstacle with an assigned vehicle, like an on-call person, you send it home with them, is the charging station. We talked about that. It'd be awful hard. I suspect I'd get a lot of resistance from a guy or a gal if I told them to install a charger at their house for the county's vehicle. And then I don't disagree with them. I just, so that would, and then we get into some, that's why I talk about the range piece.
Yeah.
You know, so I think,
That all makes sense.
yeah.
Any further questions?
I actually had one more question. I was just taking a look on line 5375, the training school supplies. Last year, we requested 17,500. And it looks like to date, we have spent $2,321.09. The year before, we spent over
Look at your
14,000.
appropriation report. That one was current as of the date at the top of that.
Right, so
So
that
go
was
to
my
your-
question, has that?
Yeah, go to your appropriation.
What,
and see the
so
year
what,
to date.
what you printed out today,
Yes.
which I didn't look at, I was going by my notes.
Yeah,
You
don't go by those numbers.
Okay. So can you tell me without me having to dig through papers and take too much time what that would be?
And 75, what was the line?
Uh,
5375.
Not on there.
They have spent 6,516.57.
65, 16, 67. We do have, I am aware of some outstanding invoices for training that we just did. We have partnered with Belfast to offer another training that took place last week as far as hosting them.
1,500
I thought I thought between the two, and then I think there's one more coming up. I thought
Well-
between the two, there was we were looking close to at least like another 3 to maybe even 4,500.
So if that still sounds reasonable, I just, I noticed the big.
Yeah, sure. Well, there you
That-
go.
that's fine. And then my next question was actually for the commissioners. You had requested fuel in the amount of 120,000 and the commissioners requested 110,000.
Gas?
Yeah.
A gas is talking to the sheriff, and I follow it quite closely on that. And I thought that his budget was calibrated on $5 a gallon. I thought we could take 10,000 off of that and be more down in the $4 range. Well, gas started to drop, and I was thinking, well, the budget committee would be looking at another cut, but I think the water is getting a little choppy on fuel and the financial waters. And I think the figure on gas now would be a good figure to go with. If we cut it anymore, I think we would be chancing it a little bit.
I promise I'm done asking questions. For now,
I was gonna say, you might want to qualify.
but just remember, we're working together next
Oh,
Saturday
I'm more
morning.
there.
I'll
All right.
bring the donuts.
Perfect.
Any further questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the sheriff's department budget after giving them a hard time. Department 1075, sheriff in the amount of $2,309,020.
I'll second that.
Motion moved by Penny, second by Wayne. Any further discussion? Not, call for a vote. Kate? Aye. Linda?
Aye.
Chris? Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
And I vote yes, it's unanimous. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
How does the committee feel about taking a 5-minute break?
All for it.
And you think? Okay,
Now we're gonna be alone.
yeah, I guess so. All right, back in 5. Paying attention like that. All right, so let's quickly go to Department 1050 jail. If we have any questions. Go to
In the very back of the book.
very good. Correct.
Josh, if I may, I think this is the first year that we've actually put the breakdown into your budgets of the jail. I just want to remind you again that the jail budget is capped by legislation. So for the most part, I hate to say it, but you just smile and nod and.
So when it's capped, you go for the max, you go for the max, basically,
No, well, I mean, I think these folks have kept it under the cap,
under the cap.
as you can see,
Okay.
but just know that it is capped by legislation.
Okay.
It is what it is.
As the budget sits right now, it's like 200 and something thousand below the cap,
Below the cap.
with what I've gotten from all the towns. So it's below the cap right now. And I don't foresee it changing that much because it's only the small few towns that are left to get back to.
Those are,
I mean, truly,
there
I
any
know it's
reason to
there's really
to-
nothing for you to do.
discuss
It
it?
sounds awful.
Yeah.
but
I
it's
have a
true.
couple questions.
go ahead.
Of course, we've been seeing that, corrections facilities are currently understaffed. And we've been sharing, inmates amongst different facilities. So how's it going for Waldo County?
Well, I'll talk about those two things separately. So staffing, we are the only county in the state of Maine that is 100% staffed in corrections and patrol. So for that, we feel incredibly grateful.
Is that a result of the budget increases last year, bonuses and paying people more?
I don't think the bonuses in and of themselves necessarily, to be honest, I think one of the reasons why we're in a great staffing place is because of the culture of the organization in and of itself. The work that we do at the reentry center. And I'm not just saying this from my own perspective, but from feedback from my staff is that they feel like they are doing something positive for the community. They feel like they are doing something that makes a difference. They're seeing the changes in these guys. And the vast majority of our correctional staff work in this community, so they see these guys in the community afterwards. They see the difference that it's making, and I think it feeds a lot into the job satisfaction piece of things. I mean, right now we're negotiating a contract with them right now, so there really hasn't been any significant pay increases for the correctional staff in the last few years. So I wouldn't say that they're making any huge amount of money or even the sign-on bonus. When you really think about it, it might help somebody get through the door, but long-term, that the benefit of that goes away pretty quickly. So quite honestly, I think it's a lot of job satisfaction. So it's good. And then the other piece of that, the moving folks around. So we pride ourselves in Waldo County as being a forward-thinking and progressive law enforcement agency. And we have been partnering with District 6 organizations, our counties. So District 6, Lincoln, Sag, Waldo, and Knox. We have 3 correctional facilities, which is 2 bridges, Knox and ours. And for the last several years, we've been in a process of started off with conversations around what can we do to better manage our inmate population in the district. That it really kicked off after we went into our contract with Knox County, because Knox County holds our regular jail population. When we did that contract, part of that was built into that was to we would have 10 beds at the reentry center open for them to send individuals to that qualified. And they didn't charge us for the 10 beds that or 10 individuals we sent to them. So we were able to negotiate a great contract. So that kind of kicked off our relationship, and it had a second benefit, which was it was in the prosecutorial district, which, you know, when we were trying to do stuff with, say, like Somerset, great facility, great people, but the problem is the courts and the DA's offices trying to coordinate between different districts, and we got a lot of pushback because of the defense attorneys didn't want to go to Somerset. And video arraignments, it's just having them outside of the district caused a lot of issues. So moving back in the district helped us streamline a lot of that. And then just the next natural progression in that was to talk with 2 bridges. I mean, it's a state-of-the-art, huge facility with a lot of capacity. And every jail across the state has been struggling with either staffing or capacity or both, depending on where they are. And so our goal was really to find a way for us in this district and these 3 facilities to partner, better manage our inmate population, which I think we've done, and to address some of that staffing issue. So we've been sharing some staffing, trying to backfill each other where we need to, trying to get individuals held in areas that is more conducive to their individual needs, and trying to collaborate across those 3 facilities. Personally, I think it's going really well. We're in kind of a trial period right now where we've moved some folks around, and it's going well. I think in the future, over the next year or so, I'm hoping that we can maybe formalize some of these trials into something more sustainable. And I think it will address the overcrowding issues, and I think it will address the staffing issues.
On line 3112 on the food services and cooks, you had $48,530, then it went down to 0.
Yep.
And I realize there's a line item 5101 for food on page 3, but I'm just curious, why did that disappear? Did you stop feeding them?
Oh, no, they get upset when you stop feeding them.
Yes.
Yeah, no, we did not do that. We actually moved that position into corrections.
Okay.
So we just transferred it from one line into the corrections personnel line.
Okay, I figured it was just a bookkeeping,
Yeah, we
but it just kind of looked like, where did it go?
yeah, no, it's actually a personnel line. We had an individual assigned to the overseeing the kitchen, and in realigning some of those duties and moving other correctional duties to them, it just made more sense that they would be in the corrections personnel line than necessarily over there in the kitchen or cook or food line. So it was, yeah, we just moved it.
Some of the multitude of line items that you see in this particular budget too was a function of what Commissioner Fowler was talking about with the legislation piece when at the time we had to then Sheriff Story was trying to account for every single everything.
Yeah, that's
You know,
why you'll see like
Yeah,
all of the different breakouts in here for finance, or whether it's key stuff under the facilities. When the Board of Corrections was created, they wanted to see all of it. And so we pulled all of these pieces out. Typically, you know, in most lines, you see facilities is over with Pete, and, you know, finance is over with Karen and all of that. But this is kind of unique in the fact that we captured all of it and pulled it in when the Board of Corrections came into existence. So we have been over the years trying to weed out some of those lines that were unnecessary, really, in the way we do it today.
I should have 2 questions. Line 3609, educational stipends. So it looks to be new, $10,000.
We plugged that in because, under the deputies contract that we negotiated recently, they asked for and were given as part of their, bargaining, stipends for education and military service and some other things. Typically what we see, across the county is that when one of the bargaining units asks for something, typically others do as well. So we anticipated that our corrections union would probably ask for a similar type of a structure. So we were trying to prepare that if the commissioners do agree to that, that there would be something there to actually cover it, moving forward.
And then the other line was 4001, the audit for 5,000. It looks like we didn't have an audit this year.
That's,
I will be requesting the commissioners to move it, so when they do get to the 2021 audit, actually have the 2021 audit.
Okay.
The money will be sitting there. It's
So
finding an audit.
if, right, and we had this discussion.
I'm still trying to
before.
get 2020.
So my follow-up question would be, is if we've already paid into.
I'm still holding the 2020, the checks from last year in my drawer to pay for the audit that we're trying to get.
Okay.
And if
So,
we have to do that with this, we'll do the same thing.
So I was-
that we don't double up for next year.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Why wouldn't we, if the money had gone into the discretionary, why wouldn't we take it out of?
I try to prepare by the end of the year, if we need to secure this money to pay for something that should have come out of this budget.
Okay, good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's my last question. Okay. Any other questions? With that, I'll entertain a motion. At the very bottom. So I'll make a motion that we approve the jail budget of $3,189,146.
One second.
Motion moved by Penny, seconded by Lee. Any further discussion? All right, call for a vote. Penny?
Yes.
Bob?
Aye.
Wayne?
Yes.
Yes. Linda? Yes. Kate? Aye. I vote yes. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Okay. Moving rapidly along, let's see, Department 76 Communication Center.
Morning.
Hello. Afternoon, Mike.
Is it really?
Yeah.
So I don't have much of a presentation. My budget is pretty much all staffing. Talking with the commissioners, made a couple small cuts. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward, so I'll just have any questions that you folks have for me.
Can you tell us about the scheduling program?
Yeah, we had a scheduling program that we paid for. The new payroll company has a program that we're gonna try to work with and see if we can make that work to save that money.
How's your staffing?
Horrible. I just lost another one last week. So we're
One of the new people or?
she's there about 3 years. She went down to the DA's office. She took that position for Monday through Friday and
Yeah.
no overtime.
Right.
Then
I'm-
that's the weekend, so.
No nights, no weekends, no
You can't
holidays.
compete.
I can't. No, it's the last hiring, I just hired somebody new, so we're still down 3. But the last hiring process we had, I've got 1 applicant. And actually, he was decent, so we hired him, but we used to get 20, 30 applicants and we got 1.
What's the starting pay?
For 2023, I believe it'll be 1908. What's that?
Per hour.
Yes,
Yeah. You say 1908?
I believe so, yes.
How about, have you tried like the recruiting bonuses, the hiring bonuses, whatever?
I'm not a big fan of hiring bonuses because to me, I would rather have a retention bonus to keep my people that I have.
Yep.
As opposed to trying to throw money at somebody to get them in there.
Do you have money for that?
I have money here and there that I could find for the dispatchers. But I don't have a specific line for any of that now.
Any other questions?
I think maybe down the road, I mean, if we're gonna start looking at hiring. Recruitment bonuses for some other departments, I mean, they're the first line of defense. Realistically. And we know, and I know some of the dispatchers. And there's nothing I would wanna do. You know, having those kind of hours, maybe we should look at, you know, some sort of incentive for hiring and retention, you know, down the road. Granted, it's nothing. now,
One of the things that worries me too is like what the chief deputy was saying is state police are, you know, restructuring. That's gonna put more onto the dispatchers with call volume. You know, they have fully staffed, so now the deputy is gonna start doing more traffic because that's what citizens want. And right now, I don't have the staffing to handle it. It's the dispatchers are working, their regular shifts are 10-hour shifts. They're working anywhere up to 18s right now when they're tired.
That's dangerous.
It is.
What,
I was gonna say, have you tried any of the Freedom had good results from Indeed. It's a hiring.
That's what we use.
That's what you
Yep.
use, okay.
Yeah, that's all we've been doing that. We posted on Facebook as well.
what about increasing starting pay?
I know the commissioners have said at the next contract, they were gonna work on us with increasing that starting pay, but as of right now, that's 2024. So that wouldn't. Right now, it's not gonna help, but moving forward, I think it would.
And we've been talking about that for like the last 2 years,
Yeah.
how starting pay for that type of job.
You know, it's hard to get someone through the door for $19 an hour, I think, for that kind of job.
Right.
It makes sense. I mean, we had this conversation, I think, last year about this exact thing, you know, the contract being what it is and the difficulty with that contract in the background. It just seems like the answer is probably higher pay and bigger budget to do that, to both attract people. I mean, I think hiring bonus is not gonna get it done if ultimately you're not making enough just
Right.
going forward to retain those employees, so.
Yeah.
I
And
think-
the last year, the commissioners helped out. They give us some money at the end of the year to give to the dispatchers as well. So hopefully going forward, we can renegotiate and, you know, we can get that pay up.
Any reason we can't renegotiate right now?
We actually did give 50 cents an hour pay increase
Yeah,
after the budget period last year.
correct.
You know, I mean, we still have, Gabe, we completely agree with everything that's being said, you do. But we still have budget constraints too. We answer to you. So I mean, we can't just, go ahead and. Commissioner Shore, I think, has been working with that union currently, haven't you, Don?
Yeah, and then we have a couple of contracts we're working on now, not that big one, but I've had conversations with my unit. About when they're starting talks, and it'll be a few months yet down the road. But we're taking a look at, for example, in New York. Or anywhere else in the country, people can make bids, make $22 an hour. And the hotels are still 14% understaffed. So we got some challenges involved. If I'm reading those, your comments don't go unnoticed. But we're into a contract, and it's just not so simple to just say, we'll do us and so, because the union drops in and figures here's a chance to win the whole ball game. So we're going to look closely at that contract and see if we can help Mike out in the talks that we got coming up. But we're get into that in a couple months, and I kind of apologize that we haven't been able to do anything before, but we're just following the contract that we have that we could, that's, agreed to. That they fully, not cutting anymore. And I think when we get to it, like we're in the scale one right now, I think we'll be able to come up with something that is more palatable to them, to you, everybody will make a bill.
So first of all, I'd like to say I'm sorry about the loss of your hedgehog.
Oh, yes, Niffler.
And I'll make a motion to approve 1076 communication center dispatch in the amount of $1,132,579.
Okay, move by Penny, second by Bob. I just had a quick question. What happens if you simply can't cover the shifts? That enough people resign or they can't work?
I know some of our call volume would get switched, what 911 calls would get pushed to another county. Our sister county is Knox right now, but Knox County only has 6 dispatchers right now. And they should be up staffed where we are, so. What I am afraid of is that in Augusta, St. Louis and Augusta, they're the same thing. I know of 2 centers right now that are fully staffed. Or was Somerset County, and I just talked to director down at SAG, and he's gonna be fully staffed, but I'm just. If we keep losing people, the whole system's gonna collapse, is what's gonna
It
happen.
just doesn't work.
No. Because we can push calls on to another agency, but they're not gonna have the staffing either. And they're gonna push on to another agency, and it's just gonna cause a collapse is what's gonna end up happening.
Just as a safety question,
Mhm.
I'm sure that we've all seen it on the news where that gentleman had worked 16 hours.
Yep.
Yeah, and very tragic. I'm not pushing back there, but is there any safeguards saying that you can only work X number of hours in
I can
a
only.
7-day period and, try to keep your employees safe
Right.
and the public safe?
So I can only, per the contract, and I can't remember what the hour amount is, I can only force them to stay for X amount of hours.
Right.
They can volunteer for all the hours they want. And we did put a room in the back that's got a pull-out couch and everything, so, and a couple of them have taken advantage of that. They go in there, they'll relax and, charge up before they drive home or, do stuff like that, yes,
But at some point, you're no longer sharp.
correct.
Can people work from home? Like, is that in the future?
It's kind of funny you say that because Arlington, Virginia did that. During COVID, they were having their dispatchers work from home. Right now, we don't have the equipment to do it, but who knows what the future would bring.
But it's legal? It's something that.
I don't think it's ever been addressed, like in the state of Maine.
Yeah, I mean,
As far as whether it's legal or not legal.
Yeah.
Be kind of weird sitting there answering that one call with your kid in the background or something, but yeah.
yeah, thanks.
So back in the day, when you called the fire department in the community, you would call 948-9966.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
It got
the siren, this is all before 911, and my mother was an EMT on the ambulance with Amy. And there was you would call the number, and there was a special ring that went to all the EMTs' houses, and you knew the difference between
Yeah.
what was your regular ring and what was the ambulance ring. And even sometimes as a teenager, if mom had to be outside or whatever, I had to answer the phone.
Yep.
And
So
I
it's been done, Josh.
yeah.
Work from home, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget the day I confused Prairie Road and Horseback Road, which is the same road, Unity Burnham. But
I don't think she let you into the phone again, but it's funny, it's funny how.
somebody cut off their
Because of
finger.
COVID, we've almost come around again.
Yeah.
A lot of these small fire departments, the call goes into what would be like a 5 home and it's dispatched from there.
We had a fire phone in Baby Boarding House when I worked there.
Wow.
Yeah.
And because that was fully staffed, I mean, you're staffed around the clock in a boarding home with dialing them.
Yeah.
And that fire phone rang, we dropped everything. It wouldn't matter if you had a patient in your arms, you dropped that when you ran to the phone. I mean, not literally.
Sorry, George.
All right, any further discussion? All right, call for vote. Gabe? Aye. Linda? Aye. Tom?
Yes.
Bob?
Aye.
And I vote yes. Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Have a good day.
You too.
All right, we're moving on to Department 1080. Start with 4715 Waldo Community Action Partners.
Hello, thank you for having us here. So when we were here last month, we mentioned our 2023 budget. That is actually getting voted on by our board next Thursday, so we'll get that to you as soon as we can. We don't expect any significant changes, correct me if I'm wrong, but our request this year is the same as last year, so we're happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Yeah, any questions?
The other piece of that is that we usually deliver a service report. That has all our services broken down by the county. We do that for all towns and we do it for the county as well. It looks like this. We usually, our deadline for having it done is election day. And we are on track to get that done. It's a lot of beans to count in many different categories. As soon as we have it done, it'll go out to all the towns and it'll also go to you as a copy. That'll be before November for sure.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
No questions. Thank you very much.
We vote on them separately or together.
We've done it both ways. Yeah, let's do it separately.
Okay,
I'll
make a motion to approve Waldo cap $5,000 line 4715.
second. Okay, motion moved by Penny, seconded by Gabe. Any discussion? All right, call for vote. Penny?
Aye.
Aye. Owen? Tom? Good. Aye. Okay. Oh, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Was quick and painless.
Move on to 1080 4719, the Waldo County Firefighters Association.
I'm sure if I may, Josh, I'm sure that, oh, are you gonna speak there? Because I think
I
they're all
haven't
doing
been
training.
authorized by them, but I can if you want.
I think they're doing training, cold water training in Liberty, so.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. I attend all their meetings and I used to be the president at one point, but it's been a bunch of years ago. The county has provided $5,000 to the Firefighters Association. Typically what they've used it for is they have a site in the town of Waldo, a building site, training site, they have a building there. I know they've used the funds for engineering studies on the building, try to keep it going, make improvements to it. They've also upgraded, they have roof systems that they can climb onto and do work, and they've got a tower out there that they can rappel down from. So they've been building out this. They've also in the past, sometimes when a town has, they've got a bunch of brand new firefighters on board and they haven't been trained. And it may not be in the department's budget to pay for all the training for those. They've given out scholarships also from that. So it's all pretty much used for training, that amount, either towards the facility itself, the training facility, or in the form of scholarships or things like that.
I make a motion, we accept $5,000, we vote on $5,000 for the Waldo County Firefighters Association, 4719.
I'll second that. Sorry. But I do have a question.
Oh, motion moved by Bob, seconded by Penny. Yeah.
Any discussion?
Any discussion?
Was there not a request this year to
I don't know if because it's a normal kind of budgetary item, if it was something that they thought they had to do official request for. Because
It's usually paid out by the end of the year, nothing's received.
Yeah.
We'll generate an invoice to pay.
Right, but I see the department didn't request one this year, so I don't know if it was just an oversight or.
It may have been.
Okay. Not a big deal, I'll still
Yeah.
go for the 5,000.
Okay. Any other discussions? Call for a vote. Okay. All right. Linda? Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Oh, yes. Approved. Okay, thank you, Deb. Okay, so that's all we have for representatives. Why don't we go down the rest of the list? So, starting with 4716 Eastern Maine Development Corporation, I see the department has requested $5,000. The commissioners are requesting we don't fund this line. So how does the committee feel?
Make a motion to fund $0.
I'll second that.
Question, why is there a recommendation that we don't fund it?
Hold on. So motion moved by Tom, seconded by Penny. Discussion?
Why do the commissioners not recommend funding this organization?
Yeah, I was chairman up there. And they were being wasteful to the fund. And I recommended a correction. It was going to be done in 60 days. And it didn't get done in 60 days, and they called the general manager, Theo. He said, how come this didn't get done? He said, well, I just didn't get to it. I said, well, it usually gets done before 5 o'clock or I'm done. One of the two, so I'm not gonna put up wasting money. So it didn't get done, and I resigned. And I think that they aren't as the story isn't as good as they're telling it. They kind of a organization, they try to pull in funds, and if they were doing constructive things and on the ball, and I think Waldo is one of the places that spoke to me about them calling and not giving good answers or getting an answer at all. So the problem I had with them is it was too much of a waste of money internally. If they're wasting, we shouldn't keep putting funds in for something that was managed fully.
Is there ever gonna be a time where you would support giving money to that organization?
No,
I was asking the commissioners.
I understand that, but
Yeah.
I've had personal dealings with them in the last year, and they are non-responsive. Don't perform the functions that they're supposed to be doing. I wouldn't have anything to do with them.
I think we had a conversation about this last year as well. And I'm just curious.
There are multiple development corporations Oh, yeah. that service Waldo County. So Eastern Maine Development Corp is just one, but we're partially served by KB Cog. And I don't know if there's another one somewhere
We
else.
talked about that split before too.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of, they don't have anybody here even to have a discussion about it.
Were they invited?
They were denied and not able to submit. We have a new ED and the notice had gone and went to his spam and he didn't realize or know what the how you work it, and that's not sense. And the commissioners not respond to hear what he had to say, so but basically had said no, they couldn't come if anybody here. Okay. I am secretary and sit on the board, and it is a whole new program from what Mid-Coast was. And I think the excellent program, and will service a lot more municipalities than what Mid-Coast was able to do. So I think it is important, and and my hand for tonight,
But you recommend that we do fund it?
I recommend this.
Okay. We got supporters here. We have supported.
In lieu of discussion that you all had last year, if I may, Mr. Chair. And I was a former selectman for years. And I know that towns pay into specific economic development districts. Oh, excuse me. So literally it came down to, well, that makes sense. You all have your own that you can go to, and perhaps it's not, pardon me, the position of the county to direct how that goes, where you all have your own. And I heard a lot of discussion on that with this committee in the past, both for and against, so.
What happened is the economic development program is for the state divided up and the eastern took the people's municipalities signed up for that one they were the eastern, and there were a few that had gone with mid-coast. And with the new program that is out now, it is a different type of, but it certainly helps. And I know several municipalities who were not participators. Islesboro was one of them. I believe Morrill has signed on. There's a few of those towns now that want this service. And so we're gathering towns that were serviced by MFDA. So that's basically what I can say. And reorganization of the group is new and it's moving. We're very busy and working with municipalities for grants, to bring programs and helping with the comprehensive plan. Most towns now are due to have their comprehensive plans updated and struggling. So they've been reaching out for that. So
just to clarify that the leadership structure has changed since Commissioner Short resigned. Is that correct?
No, he's getting too confused.
Okay.
Two separate organizations.
Got it. Okay.
Mid-coast economic development was a part, that they could sign up for. So Lincolnville, Northport, Belmont, has signed up for that, and Sears Mine. And so For mid-coast or for eastern Maine?
Pardon? For mid.
We're mixing apples and oranges
Yes,
here.
I
We're
think we're talking
talking about
about-
eastern Maine and you're talking about mid-coast. Right. And I'm talking about mid-coast that has reorganized and become.
So can I just ask, take one step back, are you recommending that we fund Eastern Maine Development Corporation? Or are you recommending that we fund Mid-Coast Economic Development District?
I'm advocating to do the mid-coast one. Yeah, but that's not Which what isn't we're called talking about. mid-coast.
Okay, so we're talking about two.
However, I am a strong believer in economic development and I've always supported, but the Eastern Maine development also.
But we don't have a split among the commissioners about whether or not to fund the Eastern Maine Development Corporation. Everybody agrees that we should not fund them.
And basically, I have agreed after hearing, and I've attended a big thing, their annual thing, and I walked away feeling that they weren't doing what they're supposed to do.
Okay, so taking questions in the order they're received. You had a question, Elaine?
Yeah, I was just gonna help Amy out because I know KB Cog is with the town of Freedom and also the town of Palermo and Unity, and they've done a great job. But the towns support them, not the county. So I think they should be supported if you choose to go with any one of these entities, it should be a town expense, not a county expense, because I don't see where they would give the county any benefit, the basic, what's in it for me? And I don't see where the county would be benefiting from something like that. And the towns, I think, would get more benefit for each individual need and not, the needs in Freedom will be different than the needs in Islesboro.
Okay, just remember, when the county funds something, all the municipalities will get something. It helps them. Your dues might be less or whatever. So that's the main gist of it. When the county supports and gives money there, that cuts down on your dues that they charge you. And if they haven't done that, then that, that's not good. I don't know, Bill was saying that a lot of the Eastern, and I understand, and I agree, they were not doing what they were supposed to do. Quebec has never requested any, and I know there are 3 towns, but on the state roster, those towns are still listed under Eastern Maine. So, I think there's been some confusion.
I would say if the county's gonna fund one, they should fund all of the development corporations that support the towns in Waldo County. Or they should do none.
Sounds reasonable.
I mean, that would be my take.
Penny, you had a question?
No, I was just going to, Elaine took the words out of my mouth.
Great minds think alike.
And it is more than 3 towns that KB cog.
Three that I can think of
Yeah,
off the
it's
top of my head.
basically all of western Waldo County, Troy, add in Troy and Thorndike and Burnham.
Did not know.
Right,
There
yes.
are more.
And, I forgot what it's.
I would support those organizations, and I think there's a real benefit to having the county support those organizations. And I think the point that we should be supporting all of the organizations that help the individual towns. And I think they can leverage the support from the county for things like fundraising and getting grants from perhaps state, federal government. And it's generally speaking a good thing to do that helps the county as a whole, even if the projects are localized in one particular municipality. I mean, it doesn't sound like there's any real disagreement about thinking we should fund Eastern Maine Development Corporation. And it looks like Mid-Coast Economic Development District has not asked for money and the commissioners haven't recommended money. So I don't think there's really any disagreement about where those are going with the budget year. But I think just for the future, I would support if those organizations showed up and wanted a nominal funding request like $5,000 like you see from Eastern Development Corporation. I would support that going forward. I will say that in the future, I think it would be helpful that even if the commissioners deny one of the organizations, it would be nice for us to at least have a conversation with them and hear their side of the story. I mean, I think we don't want to shut down an organization in its entirety if they have made substantial changes that people are happy with, and then they're happy with funding that organization. That's, that's a reasonable thing. All right, well, with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Yeah.
Now we're voting.
We've ended
That was for
further
$0,
discussion.
$0. Right, okay, thank you. One discussion. All right, well, call for a vote. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oh, yes, all right. Unanimous there, funded for $0. All right, so let's move on to the Mid-Coast Economic Development District. Make a motion, we fund them for $0.
I'll second.
Give that to Tom. You'll have a lot
Okay.
of seconds. Motion by Gabriel, seconded by Tom. Any discussion? Okay, call for vote. Penny?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Wayne?
Aye.
Tom? Linda? Aye. Okay, aye. I vote yes. Funded for $0. And the Belfast Creative Coalition. Make a motion, we fund them for $0. Second. Okay, motion moved by Gabe, seconded by Tom.
And.
Yes,
Oh,
any discussion?
Okay, so I just want, they're the folks that had the van and they would go around from supposedly from town to town and.
Yeah.
And they did,
They did the van, they needed it to me.
so they're not, they didn't ask for any money this year.
We missed the ball in the request. To have the new chair. Missed the ball,
How do you feel about the organization?
I think it's great. And you're actually putting on a big conference in November for the opiate crisis that we have in Maine, which is.
Yes.
So it shows that we funded them last year. I thought we turned it down last year.
We funded
last year. Okay.
It's usually one of the more contentious things we discuss.
You know, it's always the small stuff that gets the most.
Come on, Betty, you know you're right.
And then I met, yeah, you know.
Well, one question that's not necessarily related to the Creative Coalition, but we had a conversation last year with Restorative Justice, who submitted a request late, and I don't see that they've made a request yet. There's a bit of a backstory there. Okay, well, we don't need to get into that.
That's a good lunchtime conversation.
It's another first conversation for another time. Just thinking of it right now. Okay, move on from that. Okay. And we could discuss it. No need. Okay. That's when people typically make worse decisions, so. So, we have a motion moved and seconded, we're in discussion on for $0. Any further discussion? All right, call for vote, Penny?
Aye.
Aye.
Elaine? I catch you so quick. Aye. And I vote yes.
You talked about lunch.
All right. So we're moving on to,
Well, do we need to
Yeah.
vote on the total department?
thank you, let's do it. I'll
I make a
entertain-
motion that Department 1080 gets funded for $10,000. And gets split between these two. Right.
I'll second that.
Motion moved by Bob, seconded by Elaine, any discussion? No discussion, call for vote, okay, aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
I vote yes. It's approved. Okay, moving on to Department 2005, the Waldo County Extension Office.
Good afternoon, commissioners. and Committee, thank you so much for hearing our budget, considering our budget, especially this close to your lunchtime. I don't wanna, delay that at all, so I'll, won't go into a long spiel about extension. Just that we provide research-based information, to residents in Waldo County through a number of different, programs, food related and youth development related. And we are expecting a pretty sizable increase this year. We have requested I think about a 13% increase over last year. We had an increase to our hourly rate for the folks that run our office. Which actually went into effect about this time last year, but I had already submitted my budget and there was no turning back at that point. So that's what the increase is represents in this year's budget. Happy to entertain any and all questions.
Quick question. The extension service is on Route 137, that's you folks. When is that that particular building gonna reopen? I mean, I thought it was gonna be just a few weeks and I hadn't heard and.
Well, I don't know if they ever thought it would be just a few weeks. They were doing a pretty major mold remediation on the building. Thank you to the commissioners for helping us do that. And I understand that process should be wrapped up here soon, and we should be back in there in the next 12 weeks.
So before snow flies.
I sure hope so.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you receive any state funding?
Yes, we do. We receive funding from the federal, state, and county government. Extension on the state level does, and that comes by way of the University of Maine.
Okay, so in addition to what we give you, how much?
So in our county report, which I think you might be looking at, there's a breakdown of how much funding comes in from the state, and I think it's to the tune of I don't wanna misspeak on how much it is, but the county, the amount that the county pays is I would say about like 1% of what we get.
So I'm confused. If you have 1.6 people in your office.
So the 1.6 is what the budget from the county pays for. That's for the administrative staff that we have. The rest of our staff in the office are paid for by the university and by those state funds.
How much staff do you have?
It varies. Right now, I would say that we have 6
Okay.
full-time folks.
And I'll tell you the reason I asked is
Sure.
because I went to another town's selectmen's meeting to talk about the county budget and how it works, and they
Yeah.
had some questions about it. And I really couldn't answer the questions because they thought that you would have been supported by the University of Maine
Mhm.
anyway. So then I became slightly confused. I'm like, how many people are there? How is
How
it
does it
funded?
all work?
How
Yeah.
does it
yeah.
all work?
So we get funding from NIFA, which is our federal funding, and then we get funding from the state through the university and then county. And we call it like the three-legged stool, that it doesn't stand up unless we have all three of those legs holding up the stool. And that's been 100 years of partnership among those three funders. And it is, the amount that comes in from the county is less, but it's what keeps our office open. And I can't tell you where exactly it is, but there's a page in that. Down. It looks like it's like about a 5-point font. I'm not sure how.
Yeah.
Read it, but
So if I'm reading this correct, we're 3%, the county is 3%.
there you go.
So, can I make a motion now?
Yeah.
I would like to make a motion that we approve 2005 University of Maine extension, the amount of $58,050.
Motion moved by Penny, second. Oh, second, my good. I almost thought I heard you say second.
I didn't, I didn't want to be a second one.
Spread the wealth.
Using me of anything?
No.
Any discussion? Seeing none, call for a vote.
I think 17.26 an hour is very reasonable, so I vote yes.
Okay,
Aye.
I agree with Penny, yeah.
okay.
I'll say aye. I'm not gonna get into the wage discussion on
Well,
this.
you're right.
And I vote yes. Motion approved. Thank you very much. Amy.
Thank you. Thank you all. Enjoy your lunches.
Thank you. Thanks.
Probably thought it was gonna be really hard on it, but it wasn't.
And last but certainly not least, Department 1010 Emergency Management Agency, Dale Rowley.
Thank you. I apologize. Originally, I was supposed to be on earlier, but we've been 6 months planning a statewide emergency communications drill scheduled for October 22nd.
Wait, I'll be there.
It's right now. So I just came from that. So our budget, for the most part, is the only increase really comes from salaries. At my non-salary portion is a 0% increase. There is one line that went up quite a bit, tower site operations. But what I ended up doing was I cut other lines to kind of make up for it. So that I could zero out that piece. The tower site operations, right now, we have a tower that we spent a lot of money on up at Windy Hill. And in the new radio communications setup, they don't need it anymore. It's very difficult to get tower sites. We actually are moving to a new site, the EMA building, and that tower site is perfect for us. So what we're looking to do is to take over the lease that the comm center used to pay for, will now be paid for out of EMA. And that's where that increase comes from, is for that, keep that tower. It's Windy Hill up behind Swan Lake State Park. And we'll actually be able to see that tower from our new location from the garden. So it's gonna be really, it'll be a good thing for us. And, I think we spent, I think just on the tower itself, I think we spent like $40,000 setting that all up. It'd be too bad to lose it. So just tear it down. But it will come in a big benefit for us. Well, like I said, I cut other items out of my budget to zero out that piece to make up for it. The entire increase comes from salaries. My planner isn't actually getting any more money. What's happening is some of his hours are paid for by a grant that has become incredibly unreliable. I've been now 8 months trying to get reimbursed on that. So what we're doing, and he's getting paid every week. So what we're doing is we're moving him completely, he had 4 hours for under the county grant, the LPC, Local Emergency Planning Committee. We're moving him off that out of the county, but to make up for, we're cutting all these line items. I'm gonna be buying plotter paper and plotter ink and all that out of grant money, because then I just make one purchase and then I fight for 6 months to get reimbursed. So it's been a nightmare with the state. Everything we're doing now is getting cut. we're getting cut on Homeland Security, we're getting cut on EMPG, we're getting cut on local emergency planning committee. Fortunately, we've been able to keep our budget stabilized. Most of what we did with all these grant monies anyways was usually supporting others. Like, for example, a lot of the Homeland Security monies, we have put up radio repeaters all over the county for fire departments to use. Matter of fact, today we were testing one of them, CC2, Common Channel 2, was located at Aborn, but we gave up our antenna to RC71, and now we're looking to relocate it at the sheriff's office tower to serve the Belfast area. And the testing today, I was actually out at Searsmont on a handheld hitting it, so I think it's going to do very, very well. But that's my budget. The entire increase is due to personnel.
So how did your test work out? And
For us, pretty good. Because there's two types of communications in the county. There's a comm center, and they're what I refer to as business communications for public safety. They're there day to day, 24/7. You know, it's a business operation. The communications that I provide are when the poop has hit the fan, this has to work. And so we have our system isn't tied together like his system is. You can communicate off any one of these towers in and out of. Ours is if this tower is not, you can't reach this tower, then try this one. They're all standalone.
yeah, so when I asked my fire chief, how did the communications go with Palermo? Did you park your truck in front of Amy Fowler's house and test it there?
No, because the antenna, the tower that we were testing today is in Belfast.
Yeah.
Which isn't a good location to try to hit Palermo from.
No.
Yeah, not for us, Bob, not for us.
Oh.
But we have repeaters currently in South Liberty, which I'm working with Mike on. Looks like we're going to relocate somewhere else, and hopefully we can find a place for that. These are tactical repeaters. During an emergency, they may be using this on scene, you know, for a fire or something. I know Palermo has its own tactical repeater. But
What's the difference between a tactical repeater and a permanent one?
For theirs, they're all permanent, but for their towers, you could be standing anywhere in the county and it's all computerized, and it'll say, okay, your signal is coming stronger from this tower than from this one. So we're going to take it from this one, but you're receiving it better on this tower. So then it sends it out on that one. It's all this web that it's all linked to, this mesh for radio systems. Ours, they've dispatched off that channel, you know, and whatnot. Our radios are basically, you need to talk with the next town over, and on a handheld to handheld, you can't do that. So you get a repeater somewhere. So we've tried to stick up these standalone tactical repeaters, various places around the county. Right now, we have one in Stockton. We have one actually in Dixmont, but it's right on the Jackson border. We have one on Aborn, two on Aborn. We worked with Unity on the old ambulance repeater to get that up and running on Quaker Hill. We have one out in South Liberty. So we just got these. They're not really to dispatch off of, therefore, so that Palermo can talk to Liberty, or, you know, that Belmont can talk to Belfast, is what they're for.
And in a major power outage, how long can these repeaters go on for?
All of them are on backup generator. Now, we've had some situations where the backup generators have failed. We at this point in time, we haven't been able to afford to back up all of them, but we back up some key ones. And matter of fact, in 13 ice storm, that's what happened to us. Everything went down. The entire LE stations, the fire, north and south, everything went down. EMA stayed up because at that point we had a 12-hour backup system for the EMA repeater at Avon. So everybody switched over to EMA as the backup and utilized that until we get the facility back up and running. We hauled a new generator up there.
And last question on this, is it possible to have them eventually all be like a solar battery backup so they can just run forever?
Well, up at the garden site, the Swanville Garden, we're building a new EMA building and we're going solar up there.
Okay.
And the hope is if that works, we might be able to take it elsewhere. Back a number of years ago, we contacted Sundog to find out what it would cost to do Avon. And at that point in time, it was like $30,000.
Okay.
And I had like 4. So like, no, I guess not. So it all depends on, you know, if we can afford it, you know, we can carry it elsewhere. But right now we are going to put the new emergency operations center up on solar.
Okay, great.
We've been working with Solar Logics.
Because they were asking earlier, could you explain to them like the heating system in there, isn't
Oh,
there
yeah.
gonna be like wood and
Well,
stuff? I mean, for
we're-
backup, it's
We're
kind
gonna have a propane radiant floor, which of course, even if it goes out, we've got, several hours or even days that it'll stay warm. It's also a lot more efficient. And we're gonna have 3 1,000-gallon tanks of propane up there, so we'll be able to go for a long time. But as a backup to that, we're putting a wood stove in the EMA building, so we can just heat it the old-fashioned way. We're gonna have on the well, we're gonna have a hand pump. It has a submersible pump also, so we can get water normally that way, but if that's down, we'll go outside and crank water. We're trying to do everything so that if there's a 6-month-long power outage, we're up and running, no matter what.
Good.
And that'll be where probably most of the county will end up working on it. Is that facility, because it'll be able to stay up and running.
Okay.
The system we're putting in, if we ever want to put up a windmill, you could tie into the system. It's where, with the backup batteries we're gonna have and the controllers that we're gonna have. It really doesn't matter what the input is, generator, wind, solar, and whatever. Heck, we might be able to stick a paddle wheel down at the Goose River and generate electricity that way.
Now, are you able to, like, how weather dependent is some of these systems? I mean, they're always talking about the global warming and the climate getting more severe.
Yeah.
In Maine, we don't normally have super high winds. We get a hurricane, every 5 years or something.
Our worst ones were 1950s,
Yeah.
1954.
But point being is, I mean, are these set up so that they could sustain that type of an event?
The building up there is designed for Category 1 hurricane. Actually, the sheriff's office is actually built for Category 3 hurricane. It's near statistical, it's like a 500-year event or more before a Hurricane 3. Maine's never actually experienced one, 1 or 2 or 3. We had some ones, not recently. It's been 30 years since our last hurricane.
Yeah.
But they are being built for those winds. We're well out of the flood zone. We're out of the hazmat area. Right now, our facility, when Penobscot Macomb caught fire, was in that zone where we said shelter in place. Of course, now it's all gone. Yeah, we've looked at all the different hazards that we could experience and made sure the building, we're gonna have shutters for the windows, so we can shutter the windows for debris. So, yeah.
When is the slated opening day, and are you gonna have a big public launch?
Have a party?
We could, as for the day,
the budget.
well,
Potluck.
as everybody probably understands, right now, you can't get contractors. And then if you want materials, it can be months getting, we had to order windows from Matthews Brothers 6 months out. We
couldn't even get a cement board for the longest time.
Yeah, because I went through 6 concrete contractors before I found one who's willing to do it. And then he says, when I'm done doing something else, I'll come over and do yours. So right now, we're hoping to be in March, April timeframe. We might actually be able to move in earlier than that, but there'll be a lot of stuff finished. But we just, as for day, I just don't know because, well, the actual building contractor started a week later than he was supposed to start. He had some people who got COVID and they weren't getting slow on finishing up the last project and then rain comes and so then we've lost 2 more days there. But right now, we're building the building. We've done most of the site work except for the stormwater stuff. We're hoping to pour the slab for this warehouse next to the unit building also. What we call a food warehouse. We're hoping to pour the slab for that in a week or 2 and then get the building stood up on that. But probably by sometime in the spring.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Neither can we.
Well, you can't come.
Oh, well, and if anybody wants, give me an email or a ring or something and come on out and see what we got there right now. Hopefully by the end of the month, we'll be putting trusses on the building.
You got walls yet? No.
Exterior walls, all the exterior walls are up, a couple of interior walls that are structural. The windows are at Matthews Brothers, or excuse me, are at Viking right now. the area. Doors are still, we're waiting on the personnel doors, the garage doors. It's been a real mismatch. They told us it'd be 6 months for garage doors, so I went ahead and ordered them months ago. And then I got a call from PDQ, they're here. Okay, can you store them for a while? Because I don't even have a bill to put them in. So there's been a lot of that. We've been buying a lot of materials and just storing it on site.
Sounds exciting.
Yeah, it's a lot of work too. We don't have a general contract. We're basically doing it in-house with subs. Because if we tried to go out to bid, we wouldn't have got them. It's not a big enough project. It's a house with a garage. It's what the size of it is.
And remind me, what is going to happen with the old space?
The old space right now, we're planning on it being used by the district attorney's office.
Oh, right.
And so, matter of fact, I've met with them to start planning out the layout for that. We're hoping to use the same builder that we're using up in Swanville, and they've got a draftsman on staff. So I'm actually a professional engineer, so I'm hoping that we can actually for the district attorney's piece, do that in-house, design, even permitting more. We're saving huge amounts of money by doing it in-house.
Sounds like it.
Looking at the budget, we shaved $1 million off not from that bid.
Wow. Oh, my God.
We didn't have to do performance bonds or bid bonds or, just the number of things that we didn't have to do. We're not paying a general contractor. We're not paying markup on materials because we're buying them directly. And we've been getting discounts from Viking for materials that we've been buying.
And I've been able to come to a lot of the meetings, the commissioners meetings, once or twice a month. And I've been following Dale fairly closely. I'm, just kind of sitting there taking my notes and stuff. It's amazing the amount of work they've got done with, the least amount of money and the least amount of personnel. It's just amazing.
So, because we don't have a general contractor, there's some work that falls between this sub and this sub. So guess who does it?
You
Me and Britt, my comm guy, and Rob, my planner, and we're out there laying out vapor barrier and putting down insulation on the floor. And so we've been doing some of the work ourselves. I've been building all the forms for all the pads we have to build, concrete pads. It's been a lot of work.
You can't get help from the residents of the rehab
The
center.
problem is right now, it's one of those things where I get a call this afternoon saying, I can be there Monday to pour concrete. Okay, I'm going out there Sunday to build forms. And we just can't work the residents that quickly. To make it happen. We put down vapor barrier, we put down insulation, we put down PEX pipe for the radiant floor, and then the wind started pinning right up. And so we're out there on Saturday putting it all back down.
It's very windy out there. It is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So
a windmill
turbine.
might work.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can I make a motion that we approve 1010 Emergency Management Agency? The amount requested $163,940.
Second. Motion by Penny, second by Gabe. Any further discussion? None, call for a vote. Okay, aye. Good.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Thank you very much, Jill.
Wood stove has gonna be a wood cook stove.
Oh, that's
Even better.
Yeah.
That's
We're already talking about all of it.
I was supposed to ask a question
From the
of
office.
you from Burnham, I think it was, and I did lost my going. I'll think of it on my way home. Because when I saw you, I was like, I'm supposed to ask you a question.
The materials are local as much as we possibly can get. Matter of fact, the steel is coming from the Amish. Cook stoves coming from the Amish. Matthews Brothers, we use them for materials. So. Good, yeah.
We appreciate that.
Sure.
Feel free to stay for a sandwich.
Well, I'm actually.
It's got a pork on it.
I got pizza in the office for all the com guys. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so looking at my list, we have grant writing for $0. Oh no, we need that.
To make a motion where you approve grant writing for $0.
I'll second.
Motion moved by Bob, seconded by Penny. Any discussion? Okay, call for vote. Okay,
Yep.
Aye.
Aye.
I vote yes. All right, good. Check
That's
that out.
probably the easiest vote of all.
All right, well, why don't we get a final motion for the grand total? I don't believe anything is.
Do we need grand total including the jail, or do we have to do two of them?
Sorry, two of them, yeah, the total county and then the grand total.
I'll make a motion that we approve the county budget in the amount of $7,249,484.
Second.
Motion moved by Gage, seconded by Linda. Any discussion? None? Call, yeah, call for a vote. Penny?
I,
Bob?
Aye.
I,
Okay, I vote yes. That's approved, and now the grand total. I'll entertain
the jail.
We already did the jail.
We did the jail separate.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion that we approve the grand total $10,438,630.
second it.
Okay, motion moved by Gage, seconded by Linda. Any final discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. Kate, aye. Linda? Tom?
Aye.
Wayne?
yeah.
And I vote yes. The motion passes. All right. So now it gets forward, moved along to the public meeting, public hearing, November 4th. November 4th at, what do we say?
6 p.m.
6 p.m.
November 4th, 6 p.m. Don't miss it. Final meeting. Any final discussion before we adjourn? And have lunch. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion moved by Elaine, seconded by Bob. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call for a final vote. Penny?
Yes, indeed.
Aye.
Bob? Elaine?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, Linda?
Yes, I'm tempted to vote no, but. Not today.
Didn't want to get beat up today.
And I vote yes, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay, one thing I'd like to mention really quickly, Karen is moving on to bigger and better things, and we're gonna miss her. She's done a great job, and I think she should be recognized for that.
And who's the young lady with you?
This is Trish. She is our new finance.
Oh, my God.
Oh, well, thanks for the introduction to commissioners.
It was so slow.
It was-
Nice to meet you.
I'll take blame on that. I should have introduced this. I just pecked her in the corner and she was.
Nice to meet you all.